find ourselves at the Westwood One Studios in the heart of Times Square. It's time once again for the OpieRadio Podcast. Ooh, jeez, you're hot. Carl's coming in hot to start the Opie.
I better start chatting then to see. Am I okay?
Yeah, give me a little test there.
I'll give you a little test. I'll be talking like it, probably more like at
Try
this
him for a little bit because this thing is wacky.
Okay, let me listen to myself.
You're not going to want your headphones on, are you?
I need to hear the way that my voice is going in. Actually, I've been recording podcasts for the last 3 days.
Yeah.
Like so regularly, trying to bank them up.
Yeah.
That I feel like this is all I've been doing. Is literally listening to myself in fucking headphones for days. God, can't somebody just fucking employ me?
Right.
I started doing this new podcast with like a young female comic called Katie Boyle. It's like a sex dating podcast, but very much with like an Irish flavor. Because I know when you hear like sex dating podcasts, you go, well, there's 100 of them.
Yeah.
But there's none in Ireland, and actually there's a nation that needs it a lot. It's definitely Ireland.
Des Bishop, one of my friends and a really funny stand-up comic. You were on a very early episode of the OpieRadio podcast where we did your whole history. But for this episode, I just want people to know, born and raised in Queens, was a bad boy, so he was shipped out to Ireland to live with your aunt.
Well, to go to boarding school and then stay with relatives at the weekends.
It's like sending Lex Luthor to Attica. I mean, Ireland's tough, man.
It was all right. Well, actually, I mean, I had there was a 25th reunion of like the guys that I finished school with in 93, which I missed, but then we all reconnected as a result of the reunion, chatting to each other, and then I hooked up with a couple of guys, and when we started reminiscing, it was very different to the States. When I go back and I think about it, you know, the priests were very angry. I can't remember if we talked a little bit about this, I feel.
A little bit, I'm sure we'll find new stuff, so don't worry about it.
No, but it's just fresh for me because literally a week and a half ago I was having a good reminiscence, but the priests were angry. I mean, some of them actually were pedophiles, like officially they went to jail and everything, and we were sort of around that. But then also...
I just laugh how you say that word.
Oh, you guys say pedophile.
We say peda.
Yeah, well, we got a lot more pedophiles per capita, so we pronounce it correctly. Okay?
In Jersey, we got pee-pee files. My priest was a pee-pee file.
Oh, really?
What's a pee-pee file?
Just because we're ignorant. We only went to the 3rd grade, so we're like, there's no science behind it. Hey, fucking look at a pee-pee pal.
We had a pee-pee toucher in
Look at that. There he is.
At our church, we had a pee-pee toucher.
What's up, sneaky hands, father? Father, sneaky hands.
But we got the strap, you know? We got the fucking strap until 92. I went there in 1990. And if the priest wasn't happy, we'd all line up, we'd put our hands out, and he had like a leather welt. It wasn't a belt. It was like it was actually a weapon, and he would whack us on the hands, two on each palm.
On the hands?
In the 90s.
Why the hands?
That was his thing.
He wanted to hit you in the ass so bad.
Well, that priest was just angry. He wasn't a pedophile. Like, I give him a lot of credit. Okay. You know? But
he was just
pedophile. He was just I'm going to say pedophile.
No. You convinced me. I'm switching over.
Yeah.
I'm in the pedophile camp.
So, anyway.
Done and done.
He was just an angry guy. But then in Ireland, there's a sport called hurling. I don't know if you've ever seen that sport.
Which one is that now?
It's when they throw up at the bar.
It's like field hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're hurling at the pub.
But it's kind of like field hockey, but you kind of hold the ball on the stick in the air. You don't play it on the ground. You can play it on the ground, but you catch it. You can only take 3 steps, and you have to put it on the stick. It's it's a pretty incredible game, but it's very intense.
And then you kind of pitch to yourself and then hit it, right?
Yeah, you throw it up in the air, and then you almost like self-hit when you were a kid playing baseball. And then you over the bar for 1 point, in the goal for 3.
Yeah.
Great sport. Very fast field sport.
Is that the original? Is that the originals? Does that predate?
Predate what?
Predate field hockey?
Well, I don't know if they're connected in any way.
Right.
In terms of Gaelic games, that's like an ancient Celtic game.
Right.
It evolved into organized sport. Like most organized sports kind of evolved around the late 1800s into the early 1900s. You know, there was an Irish sporting organization.
Why hasn't a sport like that caught on in America?
It has. It's very like lacrosse, actually. Lacrosse is a better...
Wait, they're playing well, lacrosse is different, though.
Yeah, well, actually, lacrosse is probably a better example than field hockey in terms of this game. In that you're sort of, you're holding it on the stick, and then you release it. The only difference being that you don't catch it in your hand.
Right. Gotcha.
And send it. But anyway, the reason why I brought that up was the hurl is quite a rough stick, but he had a half of her, like one that had been broken.
Oh my God.
And when we were lining up to get into breakfast, if he thought we were like messing around too much, he would whack all of us on the back of our knees with the half of her.
Oh my God.
So the American equivalent would be like if a priest walked around with a broken baseball bat, like the bottom part.
Yeah, basically, like a little bit lighter, like
Because you would know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, anytime you've been whacked with a stick, that's the sensation.
I dated a field hockey girl once in Montclair, New Jersey. She was a brute.
Well, they're bigger girls, aren't they?
She's shoulders.
Great sport, actually.
Man, like we were like playing.
Well, it's great sport to watch because they make them wear the skirts.
Yeah, they
and
do
the
the
whole
skirt.
And they also give them a stick that's a little on the short side, so they have to bend over the entire game.
We were at a Christmas party. We were play fighting. She threw me right into a fucking Christmas tree.
I'm sure she
fucking
did.
Embarrassing.
I like a woman who's comfortable getting a stick that's on the short side. So then I know that the disappointment level will be low. You know?
No,
Plus, I have a slight bend at the end.
That's good.
Okay, all right.
Fish on.
I'm only kidding.
No, but I bring that up because how ridiculous that is that you got this sport, field hockey, and there's a lot of girls that play it very well, and they're forced to wear skirts with a tiny stick bending over the whole time. You would think they would at least get rid of the skirt thing.
Well,
I don't want them
are
to.
you a feminist?
No, I don't want them to.
No,
but
I mean, a lot of the weird things they make women wear in sports is kind of strange. But at the same time, I mean, I think because they wear that underwear underneath, it's basically just as practical as a pair of shorts.
True.
You know? But I guess they could put them in like you would think at this stage you would have transferred to like yoga pants, which were equally sexy, but perhaps a little bit more tasteful.
Exactly.
Yoga pants have gotten very sneaky, though.
What do you mean?
They're built out of different fabrics now. Like when yoga pants first came out, you could pretty much figure out what a girl looked like instantly from a mile away. But now the fabrics are thicker.
Oh, really?
I'm telling you.
I didn't realize there was the great deception.
I've picked up enough.
So what do
You
you
don't
say?
see that little.
So what do you?
I mean, 4 years ago, yoga pants were art.
Yeah.
Street art.
You would see that little curved thing.
So now this is almost like photoshopping with your clothes.
It's clothing Photoshop. I'm not even lying. I thought I was crazy. I went into a Lululemon store and I grabbed the yoga pants and they had like padding on one side. They were very tight on the other, loose on the, I go, you motherfucker.
And they added some crotch material, I bet.
Right, so you don't
Hey,
see
so what
we call the footsteps.
What were you doing in the Lululemon store?
Buying a pair of yoga pants.
You got a fetish. I've never seen a man as informed about yoga pants, I have to say.
Wait till you ask me about Uggs.
Well,
So do you think that's not fair if you have like padding in your arse? I mean, I'm assuming that there's some sort of reason why there's padding, but are you suggesting that it makes them look like they have a fuller ass?
Well, the whole thing with yoga pants was to become just like a second skin so you could be flexible. But I think that the companies, once they figured out that this became fashion, they started helping the girls out.
I got a better answer, though. Too many creeps like following girls in yoga pants that they said, you know what, we got to change the style a little bit and add some padding here. Because some
protection against subway.
Some of the early yoga pants were almost see-through, getting back to your point.
That's what I'm talking about. It was art.
And now they're adding like shoulder pads, basically.
They got shoulder pads in.
Yeah, in there. Back to the priest thing, though. Being a father of 2 small kids, I wouldn't allow a priest to hit my kid ever.
I mean, listen.
Like what? I mean, and I know your relatives aren't alone, but there's so many people that just allow the priest to have at it with their kids.
That was a different time, it has to be said. It didn't last long, actually. That was kind of, I literally caught the tail end of it. In a way, I'm grateful because it was great for my early comedy career to have experienced that Ireland. You know, Ireland changed very fast in my Irish lifetime. Ireland has had like way more social change than America in terms of like what it was like when I got there and what it's like now. So I was glad that I caught the tail end of it because it gave me a bit of an authority on talking about how much Ireland had changed.
And the other thing, just to finish up a quick bio of Des Bishop, he then went to China to live.
And learned many years later.
Learned
No, I've seen the video. Like,
and
you
learned
did
Mandarin.
stand-up in Chinese.
And ended up doing stand-up in Chinese.
Is fine.
Yeah, so that's his story. Now, you're doing this podcast. It's a dating podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I had been doing my own podcast, Des Bishop Podcast, talking to comics like the rest of, like everybody. And don't get me wrong, it was fun and the chats are great. Even though there's gazillions of comedian podcasts, you still have great chats. And at the end of the day, it's just about a conversation.
Yeah.
But I found it hard to keep motivated.
Yeah.
But I had in the back of my mind, I always had this thing that there's no. First of all, I love fucking talking about sex, and I like being dirty, and I feel that there's a lot of there's a lot of like there's kind of like, particularly in stand-up nowadays, there's like this move to suggest that talking about sexual stuff is somehow less than.
Right.
So I was just like, it was in the back of my mind that I should give it a go because there's nothing like that in Ireland, whereas there's just so many comedian podcasts. And then I just couldn't find, I needed an Irish woman that lived in New York. And then there's just this one very new comic. I mean, like, very green. And I was just like, fuck it, I'll ask her. And she's never watched porn. We're still waiting to do an episode. Yeah, so she's basically representing so much of Irish innocence.
Right.
With a desire to learn more. So that's why it's very much like an Irish sex dating podcast, because it's a journey of discovery for Katie, and then it's just a way for me to just unload.
Are you married?
No, I'm a single guy at 43, so I'm still able to put the market research.
You look so much better than me. I've taken a beating.
You guys
We're the same age. I look like
the same age.
I look like Han Solo and Yoda.
Filter? No filter.
No, you look like what is it, Dom? Well, who was it? Dom, the very large guy. But you look like he went on a diet.
Dom DeLuise.
Yeah, Dom DeLuise. But you're
Captain
not
Chaos.
You look like Dom went on a diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what porn are you going to show her for the first time?
Well,
that's a very important choice on your part.
Well, she's very wounded in relation to her perception of porn. In that, in her mind, it's all very negative. It's all very violent.
Go Taboo. Taboo 1 through 4. I still watch them once a week.
So she's gotten. We had this woman on last week that runs an Irish online sex shop called sexshoppa.ie. Shoppa is actually the Gaelic word for shop.
Yeah.
And so she, very feminist, is giving Katie like a suggestion for like porn that suits women. And then we'll be discussing.
What is that? Extreme couponing?
There's a really long build-up. You're 3 episodes in before you fuck.
You got to rip that Band-Aid off. Get one of those porns where the girl's on her knees and this guy's all around.
Well, that's what she's worried about. See, I need to.
You gotta rip.
I gotta disagree.
You gotta rip the Band-Aid off. You gotta just go all in.
Opie, yeah,
that's why he's more handsome than us, because he doesn't think the way he doesn't have all this toxic filth in his mind.
Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity.
But I'm not even joking. I mean, if you're doing a podcast with her and she's got that Irish innocence,
listen.
And you show her that porn, you're going to get a good podcast.
But honestly, my opinion.
I'll do that the next time.
Okay.
I think first I would just like her to experience it for her own, because you got to remember she's never experienced it. So she actually she shared the other day that the only really time that she remembers getting totally turned on by like film was the lesbian scene from Mulholland Drive, which is a great scene.
Of course.
Yeah. But she remembered like that really turned her on. And I was like, Katie, there's just an infinite amount of similar type of stuff out there for you to enjoy. Just literally turn on your computer.
So you got to start with lesbian porn.
No, I disagree.
He's got.
Listen, as a
First
chef,
of all, the suggestion's not going to come from me. I've learned in this current climate that I will not be making any suggestions on what she should watch. The suggestions will be coming from a woman, and if she's not happy with it, I'll say, well, this fucking bitch doesn't know. Let me show you what you want.
Exactly.
Open your mouth.
Open your mouth.
Open your mouth.
Open your mouth, you crazy monster.
This is a joke. That's my toxic masculinity. It just comes out sometimes.
I want to get into that because I was listening to your latest episode of your podcast. But
you listened to that?
Yes, but before that.
Oh, my God.
So you're doing the dating podcast with the Irish girl, right?
Yes.
So the question is, what's the difference between women in America, Ireland, and China? You've lived in all 3 places.
Well, the Chinese one's super easy.
And what's the difference in women and dating in those 3 countries?
Okay, well, this is an episode in itself now. Opie.
Really?
I'm interested.
The quick physical version is that Chinese women are not they're not trimming their stuff. So they still have pubic hair, and often they still have underarm hair.
Oh no!
Sorry about that.
Ooh.
God, that was such a up
quick
and down.
yes to a.
What a
no!
So
bittersweet question.
I got to slow you down. How much pubic hair? Is it down the leg?
Well, no, they're not. I don't want to speak for a whole nation, but I would assume that they're a less hairy race. The Chinese, perhaps the Asians in general. I mean, Ali Wong makes that joke about she finally got with an Asian. It was like making love to a dolphin. I mean, they're just a smoother people. but they're a smoother people.
So let Opie know. I don't think Opie understands the silky nature of their hair downstairs. It's a little silkier.
Well, they're definitely smoother. I mean,
it's soft.
I don't want to.
Like
soft
that pillow
and
you're
fine.
seeing.
If I can speak positively about all different groups and like their pros and cons,
sure.
The smoothness of the Asians that I've experienced, it is a nice sensation. And I'm not saying I prefer it. I'm not one of these guys that like has to be with an Asian, but there is definitely something nice about the Asian skin, and I hope that's not offensive to anybody.
And you're tall and handsome. You must have buried China.
Well, I think if I was there 20 years ago,
it's like letting a samurai loose in a school, just fucking everybody dead.
So here's the other difference. You talk about dating, right?
Yeah.
And just this joke that you're making, which is an assumption, which is kind of incorrect in the sense that over here, there's like a silver fox thing. A woman likes a distinguished-looking guy that's a bit older, a bit experienced. But in China, it's a major negative because immediately they think, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he in his 40s? Why is he not married? There's still a huge pressure from parents on women to marry at a particular age. So actually, I am not an amazing prospect for a Chinese woman. Now, I had a relationship with a woman, and it didn't work out because she didn't want to emigrate. And we had a great relationship, but she was quite radical in her sort of belief system. Okay. But in general, it's not as easy to meet a Chinese woman when you're like an older white guy.
So a layman can understand like me. What year are they in as far as sexuality and stuff and marriage? What year in the American timeline?
Well, when I was there, it was the year of the pig because I fucking love that shit. But no. But
I love how the Queens he's like, well, because of open your mouth.
The year of the dog.
I love how he switches.
I don't know what to do.
Right.
That's where I'm at, though.
He's got me flat-footed.
That's the problem with being Generation X. We really straddle both sides. Progressive, but we lived through ignorance.
Well, we're living through a lot of change.
Yeah,
a lot of change. Go ahead.
So I try to hide it, but then every now and then it just.
I would say sexually speaking, China's in the 50s.
No, I think
they want to get married a little younger. They don't want an older guy. They look at someone like Des in his 40s.
Honestly, I feel like they're in the middle of a major change around sex. In that, the generation that are coming through now, the internet generation, are the first generation that are basically saying, no, we don't want to get married young. We want to, pursue our careers. We want to have many relationships. We want it to be casual. So they're actually the first generation that's going, nah, we're not into this traditional view of what a relationship is. So they're changing very fast. That was interesting to see. Irish to American girls, I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast, but this actually came up last night. I was talking to an Irish, a male comic that's from Ireland that lives in New York. And our consensus is definitely that American women are way more open with like telling you what they're into. They're way more open of like, you need to be down there, slow down, speed up, fucking harder, softer. American women are more open in letting you know what you can do to make it better for them.
When I'm drunk, they'll fly me right in like autopilot, bro.
The Irish,
they just take your hand.
Yeah, if it's foggy, man. If it's foggy and I can't see the strip, they'll bring me right in from the tower.
I got lost for a second. Does American women think this way, or the Irish?
Yeah.
So the Irish women are more quiet and just let you do your thing.
Yeah, the Irish women are more quiet. And perhaps
Gotcha.
perhaps that comes from sort of just like a lack of openness around sex in Ireland. Now that has changed very quickly, but the vocal nature of it is quite new. And I'll give an example, right? So a couple of days ago, we got a message from this woman, 32 years old. She said, loving the podcast. I've never told a guy what I like, but because I listened to your podcast, I've just started seeing this new guy. I told him what I wanted him to do, and I had an orgasm during sex for the first time. I'm 32 years old.
Wow.
Now, that's not to say that we're great. We're just two fucking comics talking openly about sex.
Yeah.
But just that simple thing of us saying you got to tell the guy has changed. So that'll tell you how little Irish people talk about it and how not open they are.
But then you got the other side of it where guys don't want to be told what to do sometimes.
And we
touched on that.
We're chatting about it. But the thing is that
whoa. One second. I'm sorry. What do you mean?
I don't think
guys don't like to during sex. What do you fight with them, Opie?
Don't fucking tell me what to do.
I know what I'm fucking doing.
Grab my breast. I'll do it when I want to do it. Like what the fuck? Dude, if she tells me to go murder her friend in the other room, it's like it's over. It's lights out. Jesus, Opie. That's why you have 2 stars.
That came up though.
Thank you. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
That's why he has 2 stars on Uber. Fucking argues with fucking everyone. They don't even pick him up in Times Square. They won't pick him up.
He's gonna relate to me more than not.
Yeah.
I fucked up my wife's Uber rating.
Why? Because you're going on her Uber?
Yeah, she had a perfect 5, and I'm
a perfect 5. I've never heard of that before.
No, she's like a unicorn.
That would make me question.
It doesn't hurt that
I'd be
she's
like,
pretty.
What are you doing in these fucking Uber? 5 fucking stars on Uber? I've never heard of that before.
It doesn't hurt.
Are you topless in this?
It doesn't hurt that she's quite good looking.
She is very good
And then I
looking.
go,
Very charming.
and then I get in there, and I like I told Carl, I could be a bit ornery at times. And next thing you know, she's looking at her Uber, going, "We're down to a 3.5. What the fuck?
3.5?
I'm like, what? She's like, what are you doing in there?
Must have got like at least 10 zeros.
Well,
to
then
take
I let one of my kids step on the seat. That's, I guess, a no-no in the winter.
But in
with
fairness,
the
that's her
slush
kid.
and
She owns half of that bad review.
Yeah,
She's responsible for that child.
But then what I told Carl with Uber, I know we're going off on a tangent now. So now I'm aggressively trying to get it back up to a 5. So whatever this guy says, I agree with it. And I've been hearing some crazy ass shit.
Opie
You know
the
that
extremist.
climate change and global warming happened because of 9/11.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It knocked those 2 buildings coming down, knocked the Earth off its axis, and that's why the climate changed. And I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm all in with this. I'm a flat earther now.
Dude, yeah.
Whatever these guys say, I have to agree now because I have no choice. I got to get this rating back up to at least in the high 4s.
I could see Opie's wife having 5 stars. I mean, the first time I met her, she was in Philadelphia. We were doing a show in Philly.
Yeah.
And my wife stood next to her, and my ex-wife, and I was like, yuck.
You said yuck to your wife.
Yeah, I'm like, look, she's like, her hands look too big.
You were comparing?
Yeah, like it was just one next to each other. It was like
That's definitely not an open conversation you want to have with your wife. It's like, you know,
Oh, well, we didn't-
now that
I
I've
mean-
seen Opie's wife, I just have to
we
say
were the NASA Challenger. I mean, we just fucking we blew up. All the kids saw it and everything.
They didn't last much longer after that.
No.
Oh,
They might have
that's a
squeezed
pity.
out another 6 months after that. or
Remember she
something, but
killed that roach with the sandal? How gross was that?
That was awesome. I kind of like that.
a woman that's
Wait.
not afraid of bugs. That's,
She pulled off
look
her
at me.
sandal and knocked out this giant roach.
Oh, she's like, I got it.
That was awesome. I kind of was impressed by that.
Oh.
But anyway, so what other differences between dating and girls in those 3 countries? Or did we
well, you know, I mean, first of all, dating in Ireland is like a relatively new thing. Like, obviously, people hooked up and stuff like that, but there was actually a resistance to the term dating in most of my lifetime in Ireland. It was like considered a distinctly American thing, you know? So much so that even in one of my early shows, I look back on it, a show from like, 2002.
Yeah.
I have a joke about, you say to an Irish girl, "Hey, you want to go on a date?" And they're like, "A date? We don't date. We'll go for a drink." It's like, "Well, that's a fucking date." It's like, no, like they really resisted it,
Really?
So, but I guess the apps have changed that. So now Irish people are particularly like the younger generation, are much more inclined to say, swipe on the thing and then we'll go for a drink. And so now they're dating. But I'll tell you one thing.
Wait, so how did you know you were with a girl past like a one-night stand in Ireland if you're not really dating?
That's the thing, you're hanging out for a while and then eventually the conversation happens, But I'll give you another example of a difference. Irish people would not be comfortable with this sense of, we've just started dating, but I'm dating other people. I know you don't have that conversation with the people that you're dating, but it's kind of accepted for a certain period of time that while you're figuring out if you're into it, it's cool to go for dinner with a few different. You might be seeing a few people at the same time.
You got to cut it off like
and
under
then one
5
day
years.
it stopped. Irish people just wouldn't be doing that. That wouldn't be that wouldn't be kosher. You
Right,
know?
okay,
There's not
gotcha.
the same openness around that. Mind you, there's not the same anonymity. Ireland's quite small, so some of this behavior is just driven by the fact that there's about 1.5 degree of separation from everybody in Ireland. So it's very easy. It's very difficult to be casual and random once you've connected with somebody.
Gotcha.
know?
And do they fight in the bars? Do they scrap?
Ireland,
no, I mean,
bro.
there's
Ireland. They're the bar fighting champs.
But I'm wondering.
Worldwide.
No, I know the guys are fighting. I'm wondering if the women are fighting. Do
I don't
they
think
scrap?
so. I don't think they scrap.
Because the Philly girls scrap.
But that's Philadelphia. We're talking about a real place, like people that go to school.
Philly's a real place.
You're talking about Philadelphia.
There's all sorts of types in Ireland, but I mean, I've seen some girl fights in my time, but I would imagine per capita it's probably the average amount of female fighting around areas where there's a lot of alcohol consumption.
It's not average in Philly. Every other woman down there scraps.
Oh, everybody fights in Philly.
There's
Philly,
this-
it's amazing.
It's
I mean,
part
I
of
see
the-
Philly
it's part of
fans-
the- it's part
I
of
see
the
Philly-
culture.
Yeah, when I see the Philly fans when they come to City Field, and they're rough around the edges. But at the same time, I've never been there, so I can't speak with any authority on what Philly people are like.
It must be killing you. I'm not as big of a baseball fan as you. I know you're a Mets fan, right?
Yes.
Bryce Harper going to the Phillies.
I know, but you know what? I fucking hate the Phillies so much anyway that they might as well just give me another reason. That guy.
What a great way to look at
What
it.
a great way to look at it. Make me hate you more.
I just have a real resentment against the Phillies from 2007, 2008, and what fucking happened with their stupid fucking towels, and we were collapsing, But I think Bryce Harper's like an underperformer, so I'll be happy to be proven wrong, but I'm actually not that concerned.
Yeah.
I think he's got a bad attitude. I actually think he's bad for the clubhouse.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if
I don't
he's
know
got
how
a
we
bad
got on
attitude,
fucking
send him
dating.
to Philly.
Well, that's perfect for Philly. You want to have a bad attitude down there.
Yeah, exactly. If he was happy, he wouldn't fit in.
Right.
What was the contract? $330 million for 13 years?
13 years. It's just strange.
That's insane.
contract.
Do you guys understand contracts? Like, how much does he actually get?
Well, they were saying in Philly, because I was down there for the weekend, so there was a lot of stats coming out.
Right.
They basically said every time he comes to bat, he's going to make $45,000.
Wow.
But how's that
Wow,
taxed?
it's like
Is it taxed?
every time Kevin Hart tells a joke. similar numbers.
But here's a great stat for
Every time Kevin Hart deletes a tweet, he gets $45,000.
high five.
High five. Write that one down. I'm keeping that. That's mine, by the way.
Use that one in China.
What's the contract on the material that comes out on this podcast?
Oh, I steal everything. I'm on the Food Network. You'll hear it like me judging.
He's going to tell that one to Guy Fieri.
Yeah, I'll be with Guy
on the Food
Fieri
Network.
on some cake challenge show. You'll be like, motherfucker's telling fucking...
And Guy's gonna
He stole my joke.
And Guy's going to go, man, that's a really good joke. Where'd you get that from? I wrote it in the
Some
hotel room
fucking guy.
today.
I wrote it when I was doing a sex show in Ireland.
For Mets fans, and here's a stat. So when Bryce Harper's contract finally ends 13 years from now, the Mets will still be paying Bobby Bonilla.
Oh, Bobby Bonilla and that damn contract, man.
They gave him this lifetime contract. But Bobby Bonilla hasn't even been talked about in a decade, hasn't played a baseball game in God knows how long, and he's still being paid by the Mets a lot of money, too.
Unbelievable.
And
A lot of
I
money.
looked it up before why that's the case, and I registered it, and I've forgotten again. But every year there's a date. There's like a date where he gets paid.
Yeah.
So the Met fans usually bring it up around then.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a few tweets.
Bobby Bonilla, he laughed
sure.
all the way to the
Oh,
fucking...
man, did
Sure,
he?
Jim Brewer has a few rants about it.
Of course
you know?
he does.
So I'm a Yankee fan.
Right.
So I'm a lifelong Yankee fan. I'm a real one. When I was a little kid, my father took me to the Yankees, and we waited for David Winfield, and he came out and shook my hand, and I was done.
Oh, wow, you met
I
him?
met David Winfield.
That was the beginning of my baseball time.
Yeah.
I went to Yankee Stadium and watched David.
But as a Met fan, I want to ask you a question. Is it okay, as a diehard Yankee fan, to love the 86 Mets? Is it okay?
This comes up a lot on the fan, these
Yes.
discussions
Right.
about Yankee
Yeah.
fans and their sort of condescending love for the Mets.
Right.
So
No,
you can-
just the 86 Mets,
but you
just
can
because of the
appreciate-
debauchery.
Yeah, well, you can appreciate them as a team,
Yeah.
but you can't love them because that was like a little oasis in the midst of our pain, whereas you were actually in a little desert in the midst of what is essentially a never-ending oasis.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can't fucking enjoy our one little bit of joy, So you can just appreciate them as a team, but you can't love them. You can't love them. They're not yours to love.
Okay.
Oh, man, I completely disagree. I got another.
That's because you don't hurt like
No,
we
I
do.
got another
You don't-
angle.
No. Wait,
I got
you think-
another angle on
Listen,
it.
I'm a one-team guy. Wait.
No,
this
no,
guy,
no, no,
every
no.
time, he calls me, he's like, Buffalo won, we did it. I'm
No,
like,
no,
what?
no,
You-
no,
what?
no, no.
I
That's
can't
my-
stand a polyamorous Yankee fan. They make me fucking sick.
No. That's my football thing. I like the Jets, the Bills, and the Patriots. I'll explain another day. But
Look at his face.
But in other sport,
You look like a quarterback that's played for each of those teams. That's what
I get Brett Favre every once in a while. But in basketball, I love the NBA, hate the fucking Knicks. I don't have a team, though, right now. But I'm a Knicks fan, I guess, but I've suffered so long, I don't know what I am anymore. I just like watching NBA basketball. And then hockey, it's one team, it's the Islanders. But in football, it gets a little weird, I'm not going to lie to you. And then baseball, I sort of tapped out. But the reason why Yankee fans should respect the 1986 Mets and love them, I'm going with love, is because of Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden both played for the Yankees.
I love
So
that.
that confuses everybody.
That does confuse them, and they both had amazing moments with the Yankees.
And
which
they were
hurts.
high as fuck the entire time. Ruined their
It's a
careers.
great doc
My-
that they made about
Yeah.
Dwight and Doc.
My whole family's Cuban. We watch baseball. That's our national sport.
Oh, you're Cuban?
Yeah, I'm Cuban.
Oh, cool.
So my grandfather was a diehard Mets fan.
Really?
A diehard Mets
So was my
fan.
grandmother, funnily enough. That's where I got it from. My Irish grandmother.
Yeah.
And because I don't know who what was the manager's name?
Of that time, Davy Johnson, the 86?
Davy Johnson.
Yeah,
the
the
manager,
86
whatever.
Mets. Yeah.
Oh, the
used
86
to go
Mets,
to
yeah.
Cuba. They used to do spring training in Cuba back when Davy Johnson was young or whatever, some bullshit, and hang out in Havana.
Really? Oh, when he was a player himself?
Well, yeah,
because he played for the Orioles.
Tommy Lasorda, all those guys used to go down.
Before
So my
Fidel.
my grandmother worked in the casinos, and she knew all the baseball players because they came in and just fucking balled out. So they used to.
Wow.
So Tommy Lasorda was a big reason they stayed down there in Cuba because they can get away. There was no press, and they could do whatever they fuck. So my grandfather used to say spring training used to be like Mardi Gras. It wasn't like there was barely a baseball game.
And it didn't hurt. They wanted to try to airlift some of the players out of there.
Oh no!
Bring them to America.
It was like a reverse scout. I mean,
Right.
you know, the Cuban ball players were incredible back then. I mean, now
Not many were able to get to America,
right,
though.
but he's just very injury prone. Anyway, look, how do we
They
end up
kind of-
talking about we're
That's
on the
okay.
fan?
Yeah, that's all right.
Boomer. And,
I just wanna know about
Boomer and poor Carton. They delayed his sentencing.
He's hanging in there, that Craig Card. I worked with him a million years ago.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Well,
he's a good guy.
He's up for looking at 45 years, but apparently he's going to get a lot less.
Well, what's a lot less? 20? That's brutal,
Yeah,
too.
I'm sure he's going to get probably 5 to 10, but that's pretty wild.
5 to 10.
Hey, can you
for
believe
poor
that?
Craig Carton.
You know?
Yeah, I worked with him at NEW. He's a really good guy. I mean, I lost touch with him for many years now, but when I knew him, he was all right. But whatever.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to
He
do?
obviously had a gambling problem. So
Yeah.
You can,
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
You
It's
can
fair.
sympathize
Yeah.
with the guy that
Yeah.
addiction takes over your life. This is an assumption I'm making.
Right.
but- well, this is the angle he should be taking anyway. This is
That's my
clearly a
advice
good
to you.
angle for him.
And that leads to addiction. Des, he's clean and sober for a long time now.
Since 95.
Since 95, yeah. And living in Ireland through some of that, right?
Yeah, all of it, really.
Isn't that,
basically.
that's
you feel a lot better, don't you? No, I'm telling you, because everybody that I know that's
course.
clean is like, I feel great, I sleep better, I do
Oh,
everything
yeah.
better.
God, there's no comparison. I mean, I was 19 when I stopped, so there's only a certain amount of damage you can do by that age. But
We talked about it on the last episode I did with you. I just don't understand how you would know at 19, 17,
But look at him, we're the
18.
same age. I look fucking like another species.
Well, what are you going to do?
that's genetics.
I'm pickled. No, I was bro. You see my third grade fucking pictures, bro? I was fucking
Bro. Yeah.
Adonis.
I always feel like the Latin guys peak early. Don't
Yeah,
they?
we
You guys-
peak. That's like our women. Our women are hot at 12. You're like, Jesus Christ! The girl I was dating at 12. I was looking at pictures. My first communion. I had a date for first communion because we're Cuban.
You guys go down the aisle together.
Yeah, it was like practice marriage. and I'm looking at this girl. I'm like, fucking smoke show.
Really?
Oh my God.
Man, and then you guys tap out quick.
And then the Spanish, I mean, then, but you know, Latin girls and Latin guys, you know, we both have goatees by the time we're 30.
Yeah, but I went to the Dominican Republic a few times recently, man. I have to say I like that fucking
I've never
Caribbean
been.
Latino culture. I just like the fact that they seem to be having a good time all the
and
time.
and you have that look. I mean,
And you never, but
you're Robert Redford in Cuba because you'll fucking just crush.
One day I'm going to be Des Bishop in Cuba. That's my fucking plan.
That's his
Spanish
goal.
Spanish is next.
They don't know the difference. You tell them, they'll say, hola, Des Bishop.
Well, in Cuba, forget.
Yeah, they'll love you. man.
And then the other question was, what do the Irish people think of Irish Americans?
Oh,
And the St. Patty's Day parade, which is right around the corner now.
there's a love-hate thing with the Irish.
That's what I was
Americans.
thinking. That's why
I have a real battle with them all the time. You know?
Okay.
So first of all, obviously, I went there. You consider yourself Irish growing up. Are you? Do you consider?
I'm
are
a
you,
mutt.
Oh, you're a mutt. Yeah. Well,
I got
you
a
know,
little Irish, but I got so
we
many
were
other
very
things.
Irish, you know.
Yeah.
And even though my dad's dad was English, but you know, our identity was very much Irish American. But we didn't say Irish American. We just said Irish, right? So that drives the Irish crazy. That if they meet an American, like, what are you? They say, I'm Irish, and they're like, well, no, you're American.
Right.
But when we were growing up, we didn't think anybody was American. You had to be something, right? Well, that was certainly the thing in Queens. It was like,
Yeah.
well, what do you mean you're American? I mean, we're all American, but what, you know?
Yeah.
Why do you have hair on your You know, why do you have a mustache at 8? You know, I didn't get fucking pubic hair until I was 15. You know, we're not exactly the same genetically.
Right.
Yeah.
So they don't appreciate the fact that Irish Americans consider themselves Irish, right? And they make fun of them, and they like the hack jokes in Ireland, like, I met this American and he was like, my great grandfather was Irish. I'm here to trace my roots or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, why does a tiny island in the middle of the North Atlantic matter so much internationally, right? And that is because obviously the Irish diaspora, all the people that left and went to America, Canada, Australia, the UK, established themselves but kept a connection to the homeland that then made that homeland important,
Right.
And the Irish lobby, say, in the United States, is very influential, influences American decisions, and they've had, real influence on the evolution of Ireland during the War of Independence. I won't bore you with Irish history, but in the 1920s there was a War of Independence. That's how Ireland, 26 counties of Ireland got its independence from England, was a war, and a lot of that money came from the United States, came from the Irish Americans. Obviously, I don't know if you know, but the peace process really was accelerated by Clinton's desire to finally find a solution to that problem. So there's just infinite amounts of connections between the diaspora and Ireland. So despite the fact that on a surface level they make fun of it, I think most people with half a brain know that the Irish nation is more than just the island of Ireland. It's the diaspora too, and that makes it really quite a large nation, even though in actual fact it's a tiny place.
Wow.
Mr. Bishop's Irish facts crush your China facts and your Miami facts.
Not at all, man.
That was incredible. I was on PBS, bro. I fucking learned shit. I was just looking at him like, fuck.
I got my NPR voice on.
Yeah, you fucking PBS the shit out of me.
I was like, me and Carl just went into a time machine and we're watching a TED Talk now.
I just got, dude, Des just TED Talked the fuck out of us.
Sorry,
I was going to ask you something else, but now I got to ask this. So
he makes eye contact and everything, so you can't stop.
So how old were you when you moved to Ireland again?
I was 14.
14, okay.
1990.
So you're in Ireland as an American, I mean, through and through, right? When did you start feeling like the Irish pride and being one with Ireland? Because anyone that follows you on Instagram and stuff, you got major Irish roots, but it didn't start that way, obviously.
No, but I always consider myself super Irish. All my dad's friends were Irish, and we marched in the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Okay.
And the Irish people don't have a problem at the St. Patrick's Day Parade. They quite like that. They have a bit of pride with the fact that there's Irish identity celebrated all over the world. So I saw myself as Irish. I was quite disappointed when I got there that they were rejecting me as an Irish person. So I really actually sort of, I guess, the converts have too much to prove. I really sort of went out of my way to try to prove it.
Yeah.
I mean, Irish Americans are quite Republican too. Irish Americans were really supportive of the IRA. Generally, people in Ireland weren't.
Okay.
So I really like indulged in trying to learn everything about Ireland. I learned the songs. I tried to make myself more Irish than the Irish themselves. And outside of the jokes of calling me a Yank and stuff like that, I think most Irish people in general accepted me as an Irish person with an American accent fairly quick. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm my own person, but I've lived the majority of my life in Ireland. I just happen to have an accent. That's the thing that identifies me as an American.
Right.
But when I learned the Irish language, so I did the Chinese project, actually was inspired by this thing I did about learning the Gaelic language and doing stand-up in the Gaelic language. But it's a funny thing about language, that was the time where I felt most confident that I was an Irishman, because you're speaking the language.
Right.
And I asked this Gaeilgeoir, the people that speak Gaelic as their first language are called Gaeilgeoirs, and I asked this Gaeilgeoir in an interview, I said, what's the biggest difference between the Gaeltacht, places where they still speak Irish, and Dublin? And he said, well, we speak a different language. And I think, well, that's pretty interesting. What's the difference between France and Spain? Well, they speak a fucking different language. So it is a pretty strong identifier when you think of it that way. So when you speak the language, it's a weird thing, but it makes you feel more connected to the land.
Right.
Even though I didn't feel more Chinese when I learned Chinese, but obviously it was a different thing for me. Learning the Gaeilge, suddenly, you're back connected to that place. And plus your blood is from that place anyway. Your grandmother's from that place. So the whole thing comes together.
How do you figure out the rhythm of their comedy?
Oh, that was well. That's all I ever knew anyway. In terms of
but isn't it a little different in Gaelic?
the Irish. Oh, the rhythm of the comedy As Gaeilge.
Yeah, that's right.
The easy thing about that was that everyone in Ireland has to learn it. That it's a compulsory subject in school.
Right.
Even though most of them sort of fail to develop any fluency, but the struggle of learning it is really fucking easy material in English and in Gaelic and in Irish. So actually, it was very easy to write material about the language, So I wrote tons of fucking jokes.
Could you give me one joke, even though it won't make any sense to us? But someone out there will be like, okay, that's a good one.
Well, here's a joke.
What an inspiring segue into asking a comedian to listen. Can you make a joke? Someone's gonna like it.
Okay, so can I?
I don't. Maybe we'll like it, but I'm assuming probably not. I don't know.
Okay, so can I tell you?
I don't speak Punta.
Can I tell you the story about the joke, and then hopefully it'll all make sense?
Yes.
So obviously Jerry Adams until very recently, was the leader of Sinn Féin. You know, they were the political wing of the IRA. And I think most Americans are familiar to some degree about the struggles that happened in the North, right? This was back in a time when terrorism was popular in America, you know, when it was white. So anyway, you know, then it changed. So anyway, I'm joking, but actually there's a bit of truth in that sentence.
I'm using that one in the Food Network Cupcake Wars. Remember when terrorism was fun in America?
When we were filming the series about learning Irish, I went to this event in the North, in Stormont. Now, Stormont is literally the building that represents Protestant rule in Northern Ireland. So traditionally, it was a very negative building in relation to the Catholic population, who were treated as second-class citizens. In fact, they began to rise up, inspired by Martin Luther King, and completely on the subject of civil rights. Right. So these people are rising up and saying, we're sick of being second-class citizens. We're sick of having no representation in government, and that building represented it. But now it houses the local government, which is equally represented. So at this building, they were having an Irish language and Irish dancing festival, right? So this is a huge symbolic thing of Gaelic and Celtic culture at the seat of the old ascendancy class that used to keep us down. So Jerry Adams was there, and everybody's dancing in the place. Now, just for this joke to work, you need to know that an IRA saying is Chucky our law, which in Gaelic means our day will come. And that's like, they even call Republicans, sometimes they call them Chuckies, because they all say Chucky our law, right? Okay. Our day will come, right? So I meet Jerry Adams and I interview him in Irish, right? So at the end of the discussion, I say in Irish. I'll say it in Irish and then I'll translate, right? Okay. So I say, Tamwich ansha is Stormont. Stormont is the building. Muinsa na Heron ag Dalsa ag Conch Gaelga is Stormont. Honig our law and you na an Wilshire talked fos, right? So I said, so here we are in Stormont, the seat of English power. We're Irish dancing. We're speaking Gaelic. Has our day come, or is it still coming? So it's a grammar joke that makes absolutely no sense to you, right. But it's the past tense. It's the past tense of Chucky our law. So in other words, Chucky our law is the future tense. Right. So I was asking him, has our day now come? Yeah. Or is it still coming? Right. And then he said, we'll shake Chakfos. It's still coming. You know, we're still not united. But to Irish people and in the Gaelic language, because you're aware of the grammar, right. That is fucking hilarious. But of course, it's not hilarious now. But that's why jokes don't translate.
So no, I'm glad we went through.
So you need the grammar, and you also need the cultural background to why that joke is funny.
And you answered why I wanted to go there, because how do you figure that out being in America?
Well, I figured out because I have a degree in history, and I spent so much of my life obsessed with the thing. Yeah, but then what we witnessed there is the dissecting of a joke, which I think famously is it C.W. Fields or somebody said dissecting a joke. It's like dissecting a frog. Yeah. Nobody enjoys it, and the frog dies. Right. But that's like
No, in this case, I enjoyed it though.
That's why I said let me tell it as a story, because the joke is irrelevant. But then, like some lighthearted stuff, like so some words kind of like are a little bit like English, like pocket is polka. It just polka means pocket, right? But Irish has this weird grammar where if you say my pocket, it's no longer polka, it's foca. So you say mofoca, right? So that's just a grammar thing. Right. So then I would do jokes about how I remember things is, some words sound like other words. So I remember my pocket is mofoca, which sounds like motherfucker. So then I say, get your hand out, mofoca, mofoca. Stuff like that. That was just like lighthearted.
I like that.
Lighthearted.
I really like that.
Get your hand out, mofoca, mofoca. So stuff like that. So there was, listen, man, I wrote so much fucking comedy about my learning Irish. And then when I learned Chinese, actually, when we started doing the series, one of the first problems I encountered was, holy fuck, I am not able to do as many jokes about learning Chinese to Chinese people because they didn't learn it. It happened to them as children. Right. So they don't have this shared experience of how fucking difficult it is to learn this language. So I lost about 60% of the potential material that I had for Gaelic. I couldn't do that in the Chinese version.
Now Mandarin is the number one language in China, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But most people don't speak it.
I know nowadays they do, like Guoyu or Putonghua, it's like the various different ways they say Mandarin. Most people now have a fair amount of it. Like all the Fujian people, like I live downtown now on Lower East Side, and there's a lot of Fujian people there. And when they speak Fujianhua, when they speak their fucking dialect, I don't know what they're saying. But they can communicate with me in the Putonghua, in the Mandarin.
When you walk around Chinatown, do you hear them talking shit about you? And you're sitting there like, are you kidding me? I know this language.
Well, I have a joke which is absolutely based on the truth, which is, so in China they call us Lawai. Like non-Chinese people are Lawai. It just means foreigner.
Right.
But when
the way they say it, Lawai, like it's so fucking aggressive.
Well, it sounds aggressive, but that's just the way they speak because it's tonal. So
they're very aggressive when they talk to
like, because why is a fourth tone, you know? So if you don't say why, then you're saying it incorrectly. So sometimes you think they're being angry, but they're just...
So screaming is a tone, like...
sometimes, yeah. Or you don't understand, so you hear it
and
as
sometimes it's just they're angry.
But so they call us Lawai, right?
Lawai.
So, but then when they move to America, they still call us Lawai. So sometimes I'll hear them call me a Lawai, and I'll be like, hey, we're in America, you're the Lawai. And they'll be like,
how do you say it?
That is right, we're the Lawai.
Would you like to buy a gremlin?
The Chinese are so good. God, I didn't even remember that. It was an Asian guy that brought the gizmo.
Yeah.
When we come back, more fun facts from Greg. Just like he did to Carl, he's going to do this to his guest. So stay tuned. Well, what am I talking about? It's a fucking podcast. Greg, sponsor-rooney.
I want to welcome a new sponsor to the OpieRadio podcast. We're talking about Open Fit. We all know getting fit and staying healthy always sounds easier said than done. Right, Mikey?
You know it.
I love Open Fit. I just discovered them. I talked to them. I'm just getting started with this whole thing, and I think a lot of people are going to really get into this. Open Fit is bringing you something new that makes it even easier to never miss a sweat session, lose the commute to the gym, and let the workouts come to you. How important is that?
That's huge.
You could save time on the travel back and forth to the gym, and you could also save time on your workouts, Mikey, because guess what I'm learning? You don't have to be at the gym for an hour or 2 hours at a time. And they know that with Open Fit. Open Fit takes all of the complexity out of losing weight and getting fit. It's a brand new, super simple streaming service that allows you to work out from the comfort of your living room in as little as 10 minutes a day. That is key, in as little as 10 minutes a day, because a lot of us say, I like to go to the gym and work out and get back into shape, but I just don't have the time with my job, my kids. No excuses anymore, because they're finding out that if you do it properly, you could get fit by just doing it 10 minutes a day, all right? Everyone's bodies are different, and OpenFit gets that, which is why it's personalized to your needs with custom-tailored original content. They got amazing trainers and classes right online. It's super simple. They got the 10-minute workouts. I saw they got yoga. You can access anywhere and anytime, view on your computer, web-enabled TV, tablet, smartphone, and even Roku. Results you could see, too. Lose up to 15 pounds in just the first 30 days. Flatten your abs, shape your body, and look and feel great. Absolutely love it. But I'm going to be honest, I just got into it. I just started. I've been doing a few of the 10-minute workouts. I did a couple yoga classes. They also have a lot of articles on nutrition and stuff, how to eat properly, which I like too. Here's what you got to do. OpenFit has changed the way I work out, and with my code OPIE, OPIE, you could join me on a fitness journey personalized just for you. Again, use my code OPIE, OPIE, and start using OpenFit for your journey to a healthier life. Right now, during the OpenFit 30-day challenge, my listeners get a special extended 30-day free trial membership to OpenFit, where you can lose up to 15 pounds in 30 days when you text OPIE, OPIE, to 30, 30, 30. Text OPIE, 30, 30, 30. You will get access to OpenFit, all the workouts and nutrition information, totally free. Again, just text OPIE to... I say to like that because I'm scared they're going to put the number 2 when they text, and that really, really bothers me. I'm breaking down the fourth wall here. You like that, Mikey?
I do.
Okay, so ignore the 2 part in this sentence, okay? I'm going to do that again. You will get full access to OpenFit, all the workouts and nutrition information totally free. Again, just text OPIE to 30, 30, 30. Got it? Welcome aboard, OpenFit. I'm psyched.
OpieRadio.
I, just to fuck with Carl, we were going to do a podcast in Chinatown, so I made a list of fun facts about China.
Bro, get ready.
Go for it.
No, but I want to hit him up with some of these because he lived there.
I'm talking to myself. I got to hear him again.
No,
This is fucking fact.
no, some of the weird stuff I learned, though, like 35 million people still live in caves. What is that?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know that?
I don't know that fact. I mean, it's I guess
35 million people. Like,
tiny percentage of the population.
Well, that's true, too.
1.4 billion, basically.
Right.
Just about.
Jesus Christ.
And then I hear there's 30 to 40 million more men than women in China, which, you know what? You're right, though. That's a small percentage, too.
But that's down to the one-child policy. But they've stopped the one-child policy.
I heard.
And there's all sorts of. But funnily enough, those are stories that Western people like. Those are kind of the facts that go about around China and stuff.
Well,
But I don't know about the cave one. But that could be just like down to like they're including Tibet in that, and there's probably some like strange Tibetan behavior. And
would
then
imagine.
Xinjiang, like weird parts of China where maybe there's some old school customs happening.
But China's so big, like as a chef, I look at it food wise, right? Like what America, even San Francisco, which is probably the best Chinatown we have in America.
Yeah.
The amount we actually know, even in food, is so minute in this country. It's embarrassing.
But can we nerd out a little bit just on how great it's been over the last 10 years that real Chinese food, good Chinese food,
it's coming.
Authentic Chinese food has started to find its way?
It's finally starting. It's, the death of the General Tso's chicken. The sugar cornstarch bullshit. Like
what is authentic Chinese food?
Well,
it's micro regions. I mean, literally. The food can change so drastically in China from one place to another. I mean, you have to understand they invented everything from utensils to ice cream to noodles to bone broths. I mean, the basic everything that we do in the West came from the East.
Right.
And it's so important to them culturally. Like if you say to a China, like when you're in China and you're living there and you say to somebody, like I don't want to say I'm going to Sichuan because we all know that. You just say something like, "Oh, I'm going to Henan," and I'm going to Zhengzhou in Henan. And then they'll be like, "Oh, you have to eat this." It'll be the first thing they say. Here they say, "You must go to the top of the Empire State Building." In China, they will always say, "You have to eat this." It's like the number one thing. It matters so much to them. And like food is almost their biggest tourist attraction in each location.
And one thing that they have that we've lost it over the last 100 years is they have a direct medicinal connection to eating. So teas. There's places that will mix these teas with all this different stuff and spices and stuff, and they correlate them to health or to help you be cured of something.
Yeah. Well, they really they think that cold water is bad for you.
Cold water?
Yeah. If you drink cold water while it's cold, it's guaranteed that something bad's going to happen to you.
Right. You're going to be seeing wah.
So you're supposed to drink what? Lukewarm?
Hot water.
Hot water.
That's like an automatic laugh.
That was awesome.
An automatic laugh in China. Yeah. Like if you're like a foreigner especially, is if you make a joke about the fact that if you drink a bit of hot water, everything will be fine. Because basically like a Chinese grandmother, is like, "Oh, grandma, I have AIDS." You just drink a bit of hot water, everything will be fine. Like it's a cure for everything.
God, they're poorer than Cubans. Like just hot water.
That was like when I was growing up. Every injury we had, just rub some dirt on it, and you'll be fine. We were a bit poor.
The twins are full caked down mud everywhere.
What was the craziest or maybe the best thing, I guess, you ate in China? Well, that's on the unusual side. I guess is where I'm going.
Well, actually, the one people always have these crazy stories like wild shit that they ate. But the one thing that I did eat that like on paper is fucking disgusting, but was pretty amazing, was I think it was like duck like larynx or duck esophagus.
Duck tongues?
No, it wasn't the tongue. I don't like the tongue.
With the little
but it's
T-bone?
It's like the white round.
The tendon that goes around under their jaw into their throat.
I guess, but it's circular.
Yeah, it looks like a little tube.
Yeah, a tube.
Yeah.
And then they cook it in the
flex.
mala. They cook it in the numbing spicy, not like traditional spicy that we know, the peppercorn spicy that actually numbs your mouth. They cook it in the mala and whatever they call it. Ya is for duck, but then I don't know the other word.
Right.
But that's quite chewy. It's almost a little like a calamari sensation.
Yeah.
But the flavor is amazing, and it doesn't have any of that innards taste. Like I don't like the stomach or the tripe. They're big into that there.
Yeah.
But I don't like that because it has that sort of awful taste. The taste
Big
of
awful
innards.
Taste. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but
because it's processing everything. That's what it is. Like people are like, why does that taste like shit? I'm like, because it handled shit while it was alive.
God.
Like,
but the duck thing The white, it's very white.
Yeah.
It was really tasty.
How
I really
many-
enjoyed it.
and the reason they
wait, I got to jump in.
Sure.
How do they figure out that part of the duck is so damn tasty?
Well, here's the difference
And then how many
between-
ducks
I
do you have
guess
to
when
kill for one dish of this?
Let me
guess
jump
when
in
you
on
know
this one.
food, go
Des.
ahead. Yeah, this
Yes.
is your area.
Yes, of course.
I'm
going
to
to
TED talk the fuck out of you now. Opie.
All right, let's go.
This is great.
Let's
this
go.
This is a very broad conversation.
So
Look, I'm looking at his notes saying this wasn't on the fucking notes.
No.
So what we've lost in this culture, what we've lost in this country is nose to tail or beak to feather cooking or whatever.
Right.
When you kill an animal in poverty, you use the whole fucking thing, right? You have to use from A to Z. So you'll use the feathers for something, you use the skin for something else, you use the beak for something else, and it just keeps going down, down, and down. And if you look at, I look at a lot of cookbooks that are 200-300 years old, and you could see like the cookbooks are how to break down an animal, how to preserve this part of the animal, how to pickle this part of the animal, what to do with each part of the animal, because that's the only shot they got.
Right.
Yeah, you couldn't waste it.
Couldn't waste it.
Why don't we have that philosophy in America?
Well,
Because
we used to.
We killed everybody that gave us a problem. Now we run the whole show.
Was there a time you think we used to do more of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you go into the South, barbecue, that's what it is.
Right.
They'll make chitlins and everything, and they'll actually render
yeah.
the pork
Good
fat.
point.
People
keep
used
the
to eat
pork fat in
tripe.
jars.
People used to eat tripe.
I eat it
certainly-
now. I love it all.
Oh, you like tripe?
Oh, I'll eat that. I'll eat the whole
it's
animal.
Like duck,
That's
it's a
rough.
pig intestine. It's
Yeah.
fucking disgusting.
No, he ate that in Philly, and a few people made fun of him and Nick Solaris for eating it, and they got really mad.
But
Well, that's
sausage,
cow-
when you
that's
think about
cow
it,
tri-
sausage is a hangover from that time. Just
Yeah.
using whatever the fuck is left
True.
to make, to make these
I've
meats.
tried tripe. It's gut wrenching.
And sausage also.
disgusting.
I'm
Sausage
not a
is-
fan.
No,
I
it's
eat most
it's
things.
rough.
I'll eat every.
It's rough.
You don't like it.
I've tried it.
You like.
Okay, so-
he likes chicken Caesar wraps.
But I mean, listen. If we're about to come off this subject, can I just ask one quick thing?
Oh,
It's
please.
a personal thing for me.
Yeah, sure.
When is bologna coming back? Because I'm a big fucking bologna fan, and I don't like this attitude towards bologna.
So let me tell you something. I think bologna is the prince of those type of meats.
I had a bologna roll today. But now 50% of the delis say we don't have bologna.
It's awful. It's disgusting what's happening. But if you find a good deli, you're from Queens. You know.
Yeah.
Lower East Side is going through this awful transformation where.
I mean,
there's a
I'm
lot
living in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of food shaming going on there. It's like if you don't love fucking ramen, which is like I've had it with ramen. Let me talk about ramen for a second. All right.
This is the first anti-ramen rant I've ever heard in my life. Sorry.
Ramen-
Which is on
You
a
know
cold
what?
day. I can't believe you're feeling
You know what people love ramen? Because it's fucking easy to love, right? It's fucking shit noodle soup, right?
a lot of salt.
I get it. Right? You have the miso ramens, you have the katsu ramen, you have all these ramens, right?
It's a 22-year-old Dominican.
Right.
Easy to love.
Yeah, exactly. But I look at it as a food guy, and I pride myself in knowing the food history a little bit. So you have to know what you're cooking, right? China's been making soups like this shit for fucking before Japan was anything, right? China was making this stuff. All parts of Asia were making this stuff.
Yeah.
And they come now. It's this. Everyone I talk to is a ramen expert. That's like being a California roll expert. You know what I mean? You're like, great, wonderful. You know a lot about lollipops. Like,
I mean, you're absolutely right. The
it's so
Chinese
in-depth.
noodles
Yes.
are better.
Dude, you go to. Let me tell you something.
Sichuan Village and fucking Forsyth Street.
You get a guy hand pulling noodles and putting that
La
in.
mien.
Come on,
La mien.
bro. It'll take ramen. Ramen is like a kid dressed up in Halloween, and his costume is Halloween and lipstick on his fucking forehead. It's a joke.
Right, compared to
You go to hand
Lanzhou La Mien. The girl that I was going out with for 2.5 years was from Lanzhou.
Right.
That's their specialty, the pulled noodles.
Dude,
Really?
it's literally you watch the guy. I'll send you a video. The guy he's laughing.
From one bowl, he gets a whole fucking thing of noodles.
That's pretty amazing.
Never leaving his hand and puts it right into the hot broth. And you'll have, I love meat. They make these preserved mushroom broths and jellyfish.
What about the
broth.
bird saliva soup?
Oh gosh.
It's a delicacy in China.
I don't know about that.
I don't know every.
It's a delicacy
I don't know
in
that.
China.
I don't know.
It's a bird saliva.
I didn't know birds
soup.
had saliva. I've never been spit on by a bird.
Wait, but going back, so what's going on with bologna that they decide they can't?
So
It's inhumane. What's
No, no,
Why
it's-
is it going away, and when is it coming
probably
back?
food snobbery, isn't it?
a lot of it is a lot of these places they don't want to talk about it, but they're becoming turkey based. So a lot of delis are like Subway's the one that started it. Do you know that all the meats, including the ham and the salami and the pepperoni, all of it is made of turkey? It's Subway.
Really?
It's just food coloring and spices, and they figured out it's a really cheap.
So
way
when
to
you
do
go,
it.
I want chicken. It's
turkey.
It's turkey.
Wow.
I want
awful.
ham. It's
turkey. They're all turkey based. Bologna has to be either beef based or pork based. Now what you have to do is just get, it's telling you what to get. If you can't get bologna, get mortadella, because mortadella's invented in Bologna, and that's where mortadella. That's where it is. And if you get if you're into where do you live? I'm gonna send you some artisanal bologna. It's fucking incredible.
Oh, this is great.
Is it the bologna we had?
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's insane.
I fucking love
It's insane.
It's. I know a butcher in New Jersey called the Union Pork Store. Probably one of the last pork stores like this where they do everything in house. An animal walks in and fucking bologna comes out, right? Like the real thing. And he makes the old from 1790 the original bologna recipe. And it's in a ring. It's unfucking believable. It's the softest, most voluptuous bologna, and you get that with hot Polish mustard. That they mix it with a little horseradish. It's the best thing in the world.
But it's tough to keep those shots because the generations move on and the connection to the culture, dissipates.
Because now, I mean, the Lower East Side is a bunch of transients. You know what I mean? Eating ramen, fucking wow, fucking
But
soup was awesome.
we're getting like a whole new food court in the on Clinton Street.
And you know what's funny about food courts, and people don't see it. Food courts.
I didn't really. We really touched on the nerve
It's
here.
all good.
Yeah.
Oh no, he knows this shit.
Food courts are the mark of a death of a city culinarily, right? Because what happens is, what that really tells you is the rents are too high, and things are starting to become communal, right?
Yes.
Like, what was beautiful about New York is it used to have a little shop with a personality for everything, right? You used to go to Russ and Daughters and get your smoked salmon.
Yeah.
You'd go to Katz and get your salami and pastrami. You'd have the baker, and everyone had their little spot in New York, and it made a beautiful tapestry, right? Now it's just glass, Miami Vice-looking fucking buildings, and they're sticking all these restaurants because they can't afford to rent because it's either a bank.
Vaselka's taking one in this place across the street from where I live.
Vaselka. I mean, come on.
But they're still keeping their original Vaselka.
For now, you'll see.
It's across the street from me, so I'm kind of
Everything closes.
I'm kind of into it.
Right. Well,
Give me the glass and Vaselka and a latte, oat milk fucking latte.
But you're going to see that what happens is in the food courts, it's not, the personality's not the same, right? And the food's never going to be the same.
No, it's not going to be the same. The people watching is great, though.
It's the
Pros
same.
and cons.
Yeah, people watch. They're everywhere. I mean, New York they're not even hot anymore.
Yeah.
There's not any hot chicks here anymore. They're all nerdy.
That's what it comes down to. The fucking food courts took away the hot women.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, they all got fucking plastic glasses and intelligence.
They're fucking.
And no straws.
And steel straws like fucking like a ninja. Like
The women walk
The other day I
around.
was in a food court. There was a girl talking and shit.
Dude, they walk around with steel straws now. The women, it's getting crazy.
Bro,
out there.
I was in Miami.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was in Miami for the Food and Wine Festival, and we had food runners for the festival.
Right.
So then in the morning, they're like, write and leave on your door what you need from the food runners at the hotel. So mine was 50 plastic straws from McDonald's. So everyone's like, "What the fuck, Carl? What are you doing, Coke?" I said, "No, you'll see." So we start going to all the parties with the paper straws, right?
yeah, the limp straws.
But the problem is these are fucking mojitos, bro. They were not designed for paper anything. And the straws would just dissolve, and I'm just fucking with my McDonald's straw. All of a sudden,
the ocean is weeping.
fuck those.
Just a bunch of guys in their 40s.
Yeah, exactly.
Give us one thing about China that Americans don't know.
Oh, fuck.
One
Jesus.
good one.
The pressure. One thing about China Americans don't know.
I like to call them fun facts.
Oh, fuck. I'm not as equipped as I
Used
once
to be.
was.
I gave you the cave thing. 35
know,
million
yeah,
people
a
in
fact
caves.
about- a
I
fact
can give you another one. There's only one time zone in China. So in parts of the
that's right.
in parts of the
That's a
country,
good
the sun
fact.
comes up at 9, 10 in the
Yes, I
morning.
experienced that. The poor Tibetans are getting screwed over royally on that one.
Yeah,
because it's basically should be 3 hours difference.
the mortar in the Great Wall of China. It's rice based.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, why are you fucking asking me? You know a lot more than I
I
do.
know. Like, he went there for
you know,
comedy. He didn't go there for architecture.
They invented ice cream, even though if you go to a Chinese restaurant in America, you can't get a good scoop of ice cream.
Chinese restaurants in America aren't really Chinese restaurants yet.
And they invented soccer. Come on, let's go.
They invented soccer?
Yes,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Wow. I don't know these facts.
You got one good. How about
because I went there and I lived, and I have a life. These are the things you can't have
Thank you.
to get these fucking facts.
I got another one.
Okay, go
Me
for
and
it.
you both have elderly parents.
Yes.
Okay? If you don't visit your elderly parents in China, it's against the law.
That's right. I believe they just changed that law though.
But what if your
that's
mom...
a Shaoxun. So there's a reason that comes back to Confucius. You know, it's one of Confucius. Like one of his most important principles is Shaoxun. So basically, like respect and look after your elders. So it's really important to Chinese people that their parents are looked after.
Right.
But the payoff is that your parents will really look after your children when you're born. I mean, essentially, you can pop out a kid and then take a 5-year break, and the grandparents will just take over.
But what if your mom's an asshole? And now you're...
There's none of that shit. There's none of this like, Mom, you know, I've just realized that you didn't love me as a child.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, there's none of
that
shit.
crap.
No,
This
there's no
is China,
question.
bro.
There's no questioning it, actually. In fact, it showed up a lot in the comedy. There would never be any sense of disrespecting elders. That came up a lot in terms of the comedians felt a bit stifled by the fact that you had to respect the Shaoxun. Shaoxun is like as important here. Like we would say, like what's a really important moral
Right.
for us, and it would be like what respect, honesty. Shaoxun, respecting your parents is like numero uno there.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why the Communist Party can maintain power for so long, is because this sense of respecting the Lingdao, respecting the leader.
You know what? And all kidding aside, I think that's a good way to go. As much as I'm trying to come up with a few little zingers here.
To get out?
No, I mean to respect your elders. We don't do
that's
a good job at that in America.
That's one of the things
we throw them in a home and we're like, hopefully they don't call.
I brought that. They bring that up as a negative thing about.
Are you my grandson? No.
They bring that up.
Somebody
That's
else.
like one
I'm
of the
sorry.
top things that they say is bad about the West.
Yeah.
Is that we don't look after our elderly, and it's definitely one of the things I came back with was a sense of how important it is to look after your family and stay connected to your elderly parents and look after them as a sense of duty, not as a sense of love. I mean, the love is important, but actually the duty in itself is important.
Honestly, I think that's a good thing.
I took that away from there. I thought that's good.
Yeah. I'll give you my craziest fun fact about China, and then I'll shut up.
Go for it.
When a kid loses its first tooth, do you know what happens?
No, I don't.
They eat it.
They either bury it,
Bury it.
or they throw it off a roof. And that's to guarantee that the permanent teeth come in straight. I swear to
Wow.
God, that's what they say.
Yeah,
I
but
know
all
why you're
societies,
laughing,
all
'cause
societies
this
have.
one's not working too well, or straight and healthy.
Yeah, that's
So
but we all have our weird things that we do with,
Yeah.
like weird superstitions that we have.
But
You know?
climbing up on your roof and throwing it,
That's odd.
That's a little weird, man, right?
Fucking,
But it probably
where do
came
you
from
find these
came
things?
from a time where it
was
was like
preparing
easy
for-
to get on the roof.
Yeah.
That was you did a lot of prep.
Well,
you
no.
know more about China than I do. I lived there for 2 years.
I got 3 pages.
I like
Well,
China.
what else? Are we doing another topic? Or are we leaving it there?
No, we could do a quick another topic. Green bean flavored ice pops are popular.
You're going to stay on the China theme? I thought maybe you had another
you said
theme.
what else? Oh, you said what else I have?
Oh no! I
we
meant like, are we doing like another topic,
No,
or
we
are we
can
calling
move
it a
on.
day?
The one thing I did find fascinating is
I have some Ireland
is skyscrapers, and I find this fascinating because of what you said, that every 5 days is a new skyscraper that's built in China. So that comes out to about 73 new skyscrapers a year. And then Carl told me that most of them are empty. Do you know anything about this?
Well, that's a very popular thing that people bring up in the West about the ghost cities. But it really comes from one 60 Minutes report that really has done an
really?
incredible amount of rounds. Now, there has been problems with certain developments that aren't filled because local governments, it's the only way that they can get financing is to just create these cities. But over time, they do kind of get filled. I do feel that the ghost city sort of anecdote gets more burn than the reality of
Got it.
But that's not to say that it's not true.
Right.
But that is definitely, that's like an anecdote that sort of made its way through the West. It gets brought up to me quite a bit.
And
And
they
we went to sort of look for them, and they're not ubiquitous. They're not everywhere. Like,
But why are they building them?
if they can't
fill
do with the
them up.
strange sort of financial ins and outs of local governments, how they get money,
Oh, okay.
how they get funded, and then as a result of that amount of building, then they get further funding from the government. It's a little bit of a sort of a corruption thing.
But isn't there overcrowding in China? So why wouldn't they move more people into these buildings?
Well, in the end, they do get bought because they go through these weird cycles where property booms, then the economy starts to actually begins to tank, and then that can't happen because the Communist Party thinks that if the economy tanks, there'll be a revolution. So the government pumps a ton of money in to stop the economy going down. But then what happens is there's another rush on property. So there's been like, I guess in the last 15 years, there's been like so many sort of bubbles. They don't burst, they plateau, and then they bubble again. So they're in like their 6th or 7th property bubble. Property is ludicrously expensive in China compared to wages. So really, I think they're sitting on like a time bomb of economic collapse, but I don't know when that's going to happen.
Well, they keep most of their people incredibly poor. Most people live off what, like $1?
It's a lot of people.
They've had a lot of. They've had a massive increase in wealth, though. In fairness,
Yeah,
for everybody, or
there's
just
a lot of rich
well,
people.
for a lot of people.
for the uber rich?
Well, no, they've taken. I think it's been the largest movement out of poverty in the history of time. Is what's happened since they opened up in 1980 to now. A huge amount of people have moved out of poverty. I mean, they have a massive consumer class. Like their middle class has grown to the percentage that normally a one-party state no longer survives. Now, China seems to buck all the trends, but South Korea, Mexico, I believe, a few, Taiwan, other countries that had a one-party state, the one-party state did not survive the middle class growing past this particular percentage. China is about there now, but whether they survive or not is yet to be seen here.
All right.
I think with
here
China,
on PBS.
Yeah, I think in China people have to understand scale too. Like when people talk to me about, government programs in Sweden or something, why don't they work in U.S.? I'm like, who's going to? Somebody's got to go talk to Alabama. They're not going to fucking listen. You know what I mean? Same thing with China. It's a giant fucking.
But that's the Communist Party propaganda. Not that your point is true, but they always bring that up of why democracy won't work in China because
the
of the
scale
of it.
Right.
You can't.
The numbers just don't work out.
Yeah, well, that's what they say.
All right.
It would change
But
everything.
look at what democracy fucking did to us. Who the fuck knows if democracy is a good option?
Wow.
I
I like it because I had a nice car once.
Yeah. we could certainly move on, even though China invented toilet paper and their kids.
She's not going to move on.
And their kids like.
But they didn't.
This is the final flurry of facts.
And their kids have like having crickets as pets.
Okay.
And they put them in
here's
little
a China.
boxes and they fight each other.
Here's
the crickets.
Yes, that's
Is that
true.
on YouTube?
And they eat 4 million cats a year. But we can move on from all this.
They 4 million of them?
Here's a
4
fact
million cats a year.
that's a fun
you
thing
finally
that
got one?
Americans don't know.
I was forcing him to come out with a fun fact so we can move on.
Chinese children, they're not as big a fan of diapers, and a lot of the children wear bottomless, like crotchless onesies and stuff. And then when they need to shit or piss, they just crouch and just do it anywhere. And it's a big problem in Hong Kong because Hong Kong people can't stand when the mainlanders come down and their kids piss and shit everywhere.
Now, like New York, does the parent put on a plastic bag and pick up the baby shit?
I don't know if they're curbing their children.
I think that's genius.
But that's a thing. In China, you'll see a lot of little toddlers running around with the crotchless pants.
But are you avoiding it when you're walking around?
No, you don't see a lot of kid shit everywhere, but you do see kids walking around with crotchless onesies.
But
I bet you there's more shit in San Francisco.
I was sitting at a Starbucks in Beijing, actually in Tiananmen, like right across from the back end of Tiananmen Square, and we're sitting in the Starbucks outside, beautiful day. And this kid at the next table crouched next to us and pissed, and the piss just like slowly made its way under my legs at the table.
Oh my
And no one was bothered by that, except you, obviously.
Well, I was
happening
entertained. To be honest with you, it's not every day a kid pisses under your leg. You know?
I would be more entertained than bothered.
Yeah. Are you not entertained?
Yeah, I would.
So I was entertained.
There you go. We got the fun fact out of.
Finally, thank God. Edit the whole lead up to that.
That's so funny.
Now, I was listening to your podcast. This is how we started.
Oh God,
and I want to talk about this for.
He fucking tires me out before we get into this. Jeez.
Well,
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But I was related to a lot of stuff you said. My whole take on this is, now that we're older guys. We grew up one way, and now we're being blamed for like saying, like you said on your podcast, stop being a pussy. Like when I say that, I'm not trying to demean women or anything. It's just what I know from growing up. But now that is a huge no-no. And on your latest podcast, you were talking about toxic masculinity.
Well,
and what it's like to be a man today. And my whole point is it's confusing because there's new rules being fired at us all the time now. And if you don't know the new rules, then people start looking at you like you're a fucking asshole. You have hate in your heart. You got to figure out your shit. And my whole argument is that give me a chance.
Second.
Give me a second to breathe and figure some of this out. I was sitting with Mark Norman recently, And I said the word tranny, and Mark's an edgy comic and lets it fly, and he's very honest.
But that's unacceptable.
He goes, whoa! He got scared. He goes, you can't say that anymore. I'm like, when?
But I did. That happened to me. I was actually backstage at the Colbert Show. I wasn't on the Colbert Show. I was with my buddy.
Yeah.
But Mateo Lane was on the same night. I don't know if you know Mateo.
Oh,
very
hilarious.
gay, fucking hilarious guy,
and very gay.
Great guy, very camp. There's no. He's out before he opens his mouth. Anyway, he was sitting.
And he would have been a better Freddie Mercury, by the way. But
he would have been a great Freddie.
He really would have been.
He was backstage. He was on the Colbert Show that night with some of his gay crew.
Right.
I think two of whom are drag performance.
Right. Okay.
And I think in the UK and in Ireland, the word tranny is more bandied about casually. So I had no idea. And I said to them.
Yeah.
To them, I was like, tranny. I said something about a tranny, or I knew this guy was a tranny.
Yeah.
And they were like, whoa, maybe it's obvious that you don't know that that's not cool. But they weren't like freaking out. They were just like, this is the moment where you have to realize it's not cool. So that was only a year and a half ago. So a lot of people are only learning.
I honestly had no idea.
Yeah, but now you know.
Yeah,
but I guess the problem is that if you said that publicly in a sense where you didn't know, people could jump on you and say, "How could you say that?"
That's a problem. It's black. It's black and white. If you say it, you're an asshole. Instead of maybe you're ignorant and don't know the new rules, like I'm saying.
Well, I mean, basically. Well, first of all, why I did that podcast was I was trying to do another episode of my own podcast to remind people that I have a new one, because I don't really update the Des Bishop podcast.
Right.
That was a little bit of a trick. However, I'm trying to write some stand-up about my own confusion about masculinity and this term toxic masculinity, which I'm 50-50 on whether it's a good idea or not to constantly talk about masculinities in terms of toxicity, right?
Right.
So basically what I was trying to express was my confusion rather than my certainty, because I feel like there's a lot of money in certainty nowadays, but it's total fucking bullshit. Everyone's out there saying this is the way it is, but it's really not. Like nothing is set in stone. So I was trying to put out my confusion. So I'm glad you listened to it, because I feel like we're probably on the same page in that we want to be progressive guys, in that you can see that there are certain things that are problematic about masculinity. But at the same time, you don't want to suddenly feel like all things masculine are shameful.
Yes.
So you want to create a new masculinity, which is aspirational, rather than this is everything you can't be.
Well, what's toxic masculinity?
It's a term.
In general.
It's a term for.
I've never heard it before. You were talking about it. Never heard it.
Are you kidding me?
I swear, man.
Oh my
I
God,
guess
I
I'm
feel
living
like
in a fucking bubble all of a sudden because of the tranny thing, the toxic masculinity.
Dude,
I can't say Bruce Jenner anymore, even though that's how I knew him.
I live in the woods. You know where I live? I live out in a log cabin. I mean, they just learned the word tranny. They're loving it.
Well, the reason why I think we need to sort of like move towards like an aspirational / more like healthy idea of what masculinity is because I'm interested in sort of the negative effects of masculinity and male identity in the modern world and how it's affecting us, which is high suicide rates, high victims of violence, and basically just like all the things that are holding us back as men, that we could perhaps be better. So what people say is toxic masculinity would be like stoicism, inability to express emotions, violent behavior, reacting to jealousy with aggression.
I'm
basically
done.
anything.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. You got me there.
Anything. By the way, these are not my things. These are the things that people are saying.
I agree
toxic masculinity.
I'm jumping in for a second because I agree with the emotional thing. Guys aren't allowed to show their emotions, really, man. We all had fathers that barely fucking hugged us and said, although my dad was pretty cool, but in general, didn't cry in front of you, none of that. I only saw my dad cry twice.
Is that right?
That was it. And one was at that Christ movie where they tortured him for 2.5 hours.
The Last Temptation. Oh no, the Mel Gibson one.
Yeah.
Passion of the Christ.
Help me out.
The Last Temptation.
No, the Last Temptation of Christ was the Scorsese one.
Not the one with Mel Gibson. The one before that, where they're dragging him through the streets for 2 hours. I'm like, what?
I thought that was the Mel Gibson directed.
Brutal.
Yeah, Mel Gibson directed that. What the fuck was it called again?
It was called.
Thanks, Carl.
But
that's really brutal, that one.
Yeah.
And I looked over to my dad. He's just tearing up. I'm like, oh, this is great. We probably should have picked another movie. We only went to a few in our lives together. And then we picked this thing.
I saw my dad cry a couple times.
The other time I saw my dad cry was my father was Colombian, my mother was Cuban. So my father used to send money to his father to take care of my grandmother because she had diabetes. So we got there to see the grandmother, she was missing 2 legs already because my grandfather took all the money to build a little apartment building to rent and didn't give any medication to my grandmother.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That
really?
was when I saw my father. Just it was incredible.
Because I know people are going to be driven nuts by that. The Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ.
Yes, very violent.
And then when he went through quadruple bypass surgery, I was visiting him in the hospital. He started tearing up badly, and he's like, "I just love all you guys."
Oh, well, that's
Not
nice.
to bring the
but that's
podcast to a
nice.
screeching halt, but
Well, too late.
No,
I didn't know how to.
great.
I didn't know how to deal with that because he was
All right,
always
Joey.
this stoic, strong guy in our family, and to see him break down like that and show like just pure love, which we already knew, that was a little.
And
rough.
I guess
that was a little rough.
I guess that's
I liked it, though.
That's what people, of course.
I liked
That's
it,
what
though.
people say is the essence of toxic. This is what people are saying. By the way, I don't want to be the guy that's putting this out.
I hear
the
you.
essence of toxic masculinity is the sense that was strong.
Right.
That he never showed his emotions. So in other words, we make this association with strength is not showing your emotions.
Right.
And I think in the modern day, it's fairly accepted that there's probably some negative repercussions.
Yeah.
That come from that as men.
I was trying to explain the other day when you say, stop being a pussy. I never thought of it as making it seem like women were weaker than men. I know that sounds nuts, but when we were growing up, we just said it as just a natural thing.
Yeah, and I like to think
I understand why women would see it that way, but I never thought of it when I would say it growing up.
I mean, I like to think of it less in relation to how it relates to women, particularly around something of "don't be a pussy." It just in the sense of why. I guess the bigger question is why is it so important to not be a pussy?
Right.
That's the question that people are asking in terms of what's a healthy masculinity.
I like that angle.
But that's all. That basically my whole podcast is the beginning of a journey of finding out how can I sell the concept of just men becoming better men, not men becoming better men for women.
Right.
Just men becoming better men for the modern world, which has changed. Hands up.
I got something.
I know you do.
So when I shoot TV and stuff, a lot of the people are very young. They're millennials and stuff that do all the back work of everything and stuff like that. And I like to party with them because they're fun and they look good. Right?
Yeah.
So what I've come to the conclusion is a lot of this on the guy side is bullshit. Like I see these young kids, they go to protests. You see them go to all to come meet girls. I'm telling you the truth. They're in LA all day, outraged about that. Like, what are we protesting? Give me a sign, just to meet the protest girls, right? They have I see them doing work. They're so politically correct. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then they're knocking on my bedroom door at 4 a.m. I'm like, I punched her in the face. I'm like, all right, come in. Let's figure this out, kid. You know what I mean? Welcome to toxic masculinity. This is how we're going to fix this.
How many people know?
How many people know? Is she breathing? So are we on the same floor?
Get a lawyer. How many followers does she have on Twitter?
I know. Fucking empty your Instagram out right now. So what I'm saying is a lot of it, I think guys.
You think it's fake?
I think it's faked. I think I see a lot of guys, and I'm telling you this from real
but
experience.
you think the millennial expression of we're woke is fake? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Well, the thing is, like, I see so many men like reading a book at a library, and they're like, and they're talking sensitive, like, oh yeah, and I understand the plight of these people, but then you get them a couple drinks or a fucking Molly or whatever the hell they're doing, and they're right back to 1978 dude. You know what I mean?
But I think that men shouldn't be shamed for the fact that they want to pursue. That's also part
what I'm
of
saying
the
is
discussion.
the new vogue is to have this mask. They make believe it's they actually think that way, and then they hook up, and then they have couples fights just like I do, and they fucking jealous just like I am. They're not any more evolved than I am, as I am to an alligator. You know what I mean?
But there are definitely certain things that are different for them in that they grew up in a place that was way more accepting of gay people. They grew up in a place where it was just like, who gives a fuck? You swing one way, you swing another. It's just not as big of a deal for them. Now, people can say whether that's good or bad. It doesn't really bother me, but they didn't grow up around as much homophobia as we did, for example.
And the thing is, homophobia for me was different, I think, because I came from a Latin culture. We got rid of homophobia in the Caribbean a lot faster, because we more flamboyant.
Except in Jamaica.
Jamaica's rough.
They
don't
haven't
like
seen
it.
the same progression around homophobia.
Oh,
to this day?
Oh my God!
this day,
bro,
wow.
this
Yeah,
is
there's a
really-
lot of homophobia in the Jamaican music.
No
and
kidding.
stuff.
Oh, and everything. But the Cuban music is, if you look at a 50-year-old Cuban man,
But
we might as well be a lesbian.
But Des, you make a good point because I mean, growing up, we didn't even talk about gay at all, man. And now, fast forward, not that long ago, it's openly accepted in most places.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's such a stupid thing to care about because it's almost utterly irrelevant.
Yeah, of course.
But can I just a few points since I did that podcast?
Please,
I've had a few thoughts, because I've been trying to literally think of material. But I'm certainly not going to be doing it here. But I happened to be talking to this gay guy yesterday. I had him on the podcast. He's a sex researcher. He was talking a lot about STIs. But he had listened to the podcast. We had a quick chat. And we were thinking about the shame around the concept of talking about so many aspects of masculinity as toxic, when in actual fact, they're just sort of negative things that men can do, or certainly negative things that men have been comfortable doing for a long time. Now, on the flip side, you never hear the term toxic femininity. Now, not that I'm not looking to create the term toxic femininity. I'm actually looking to change the term around negative aspects of masculinity. In other words,
I was going to use that on the Food Network. Toxic femininity. I
want to separate the word toxic from masculinity and find a sort of another word for talking about the negative things that men can do. But if you were to look at, say, toxic femininity, you would say like obsession with image, food disorders, belittling other women, whatever it is, and it's neither
the mean girl thing.
But the point is that there are aspects of femininity, quote unquote, that are toxic. But you don't hear those terms.
Of course,
right? So
nagging.
if you wouldn't, and obviously then women would say, yeah, but we've been demeaned for years. Whatever. It's not really my argument to make. However, my point is, if you wouldn't frame the negative things about femininity with the term toxic on it, why are you putting the term toxic on it in terms of masculinity? In that we're trying to make men better for the modern world, so obviously
a feminist came up with that saying, toxic masculinity. That's
pretty
obvious. So you want to soften that so we can maybe get some real things done.
Yeah, and I constantly try to take it out of the realm because obviously, like politics, like everything, you bring up somebody, like you bring up Trump, and then somebody will go, but what about Obama? Right? And it's like, well, it's irrelevant because the issue with Obama is the issue with Obama, but we're talking about Trump. It doesn't negate Trump's problem that Obama did something bad. And it's the same thing when you try to talk about masculinity. A lot of guys will say, but what about women? And it's like, well let's deal with that separately.
Yeah, the whataboutism crap.
I'm reading this book by Grayson Perry called The Descent of Man, which is very much about all this and sometimes is annoying. But he made a really good point about this sense of cancel culture and basically punishing men, like you said, for a transgression of communication on your lack of understanding about the modern world. You're a guy that was born in the 70s or late 60s, whatever. And he made the point of they found Japanese soldiers, what was it, in the early 60s or the late 50s, that were still in the fucking jungles fighting a war that they didn't know was over.
Yeah, that's
no idea it was over.
That's Opie's Tritter Trolls.
The last...
I get hype. That is perfectly
I got that late, actually. I got that.
Well, I read some of these things. I'm like, what year is this?
I get that now.
They're like, Patrice hated you. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
We let all the POWs go years ago.
The war's over.
I swear, sometimes I look at my phone and I have to look at a calendar. I'm like, wait, it is 2019, right?
Right.
Oh, that's perfectly said. So I'm over to you, buddy.
So the metaphor is they found the last guy. They found him, whatever, like 62 or something.
Yeah.
And he had killed people in the jungle well after the war was over, right? Because he was fighting a war that he didn't know was over.
Yeah.
So obviously, there are a lot of men with skills that were from a time that has now passed.
Right.
We're not at war as much. We don't need to fend for food,
Right.
We need to learn programming. That's more important than fucking being able to wrestle a bear, right? So we're stuck with all these fucking skills and we're stuck fighting a war that's kind of over.
Yeah.
So when these guys come out of the fucking jungle, they didn't prosecute that guy for killing people because he literally didn't know.
Yeah.
So why are we prosecuting all these guys that are struggling to come out of the jungle?
Nice.
And just give us a little time. That's all I'm saying. That's it. But now you.
But I always want you to keep in the back of your mind. I hang out with a lot of these kids, man. Like the other day, it was so funny. My friend's like, "Yo, check this out," and he shows me, and it says on his Twitter that he's a feminist, extreme. He's a dude, handsome looking dude.
He's an ally.
Yeah, he's extreme. This guy crushes. I mean, he'll go to a Lilith Fair concert and just bury 90 fucking girls. I mean, he's a machine. He does exactly what I do, except he does it under the veil of this whole social, and he's got the lingo down.
Well, it's like
He's woke.
Oh, he's woke, all
but
right.
it's like fake morality on social media
Yeah,
where everyone.
I see him on Twitter. He's white knighting like a girl, something like. Oh,
we're supposedly getting away from the hate. I guess I should say it that way. But the hate is off the charts online. So it's this fake morality. It's bullshit. Everyone wants to continue with their hate. You mentioned Trump. We don't have to go down the Trump road, but you mentioned Trump in arguments. And the problem we're having in this country and with this subject and with Trump is when you disagree with someone, immediately you think you're at war with that person.
Yes.
So you don't want to listen to what they have to say. You're just waiting for, all right, oh, he's saying that? All right. And you're trying to figure out how you're going to combat that, just like if you're fighting an actual war.
Yes.
We don't explore topics anymore. Maybe we never did as humans. I have no idea. But with the toxic masculinity and Trump, if we just got on the same page and said, all right, you're pro-Trump, I'm anti-Trump, whatever. Let's explore this thing and try to figure this out instead of going, no, I'm not listening to anything you say because if you win this argument, I'm the weaker person of the two of us. That's how we think in this country, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it's a tribalism that is completely out of control.
Absolutely, and I'm sure you've had this discussion hundreds of times. I mean, I think the internet has a lot to do with that because basically you only have to hang out with your tribe now.
Right.
You know, back in the day, whether people thought it was positive or negative, there was actually only a few guardians of the media. There was very few places to get your information.
Yeah.
But in general, you would think to a certain degree that it was a bit more curated. It was a bit more multifaceted in terms of the way the information was put out. It had to actually be. In Ireland, certainly, it's illegal to not be objective to a degree. If you put out a certain position, the network is legally obliged to balance that position with the opposite point of view. But that is kind of gone now. You never really have to go and be challenged.
Yeah.
So the only time you're challenged is when some guy makes a comment and then you sort of pound them. You know, so that's just a dangerous way to absorb information.
What drives me nuts about cable news, whether you watch Fox, CNN, or MSNBC, they're speaking to people that already agree with them, and there's no
the echo chamber.
They barely bring on someone else to kind of argue that.
Oh, but they
point.
do it such a loon, like Trump is throwing anthrax on me. You're like, yeah, this is not real. Or on the other side.
But it drives me nuts. It's like, you know, and they beat each other up. It's like, how about you guys get on each other's shows? Now we're talking about some good TV.
But this is how extreme people get elected. You know what I mean? We're living the direct result of this echo chamber.
But it's to his
hate-filled craziness.
It's to this point, though. You're like, you don't want to hear the other side, so you'll tune in Fox or MSNBC, no matter which side you fall on, and like, yeah, more of this, and you don't even want to hear what the other side is actually saying.
News used to be just the mechanics of it. News used to be subsidized by the networks, right? It was their
lost leader.
Their lost leader, right? It was what would give the network prestige. It would give them all this stuff, right? Then it turned into a business. Then it turned into, you know, people not telling you the news, people interpreting the news, and then it became a fucking problem. And it was funny. My grandmother, she watches TV all the time, and she tells me all the time. She goes, right before communism happened, this is what Cuba looked like, what America looks like now.
Oh, wow, really?
That's what she told me. She's like, it feels exactly the same. Everyone in their camps.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And when everyone is in their camps, it allows people just to walk right through and fucking take it.
It's exhausting because you got 50% of the country believes one way, 50% believes the other way, more or less.
And then there's micro factions of crazy.
No, hold on. And those percentages change a little bit, so maybe one side's 51 or 52 to 48, whatever. But the whole thing is you want to convince 50% of our population to think how you think. That's never going to happen.
It's not.
No, it's a very difficult time, but that's.
But what do you think the solution is?
Oh, geez, I don't know, man. Because
I mean, it's not getting better.
Okay, as a person who majored in history, my fear.
History fun facts.
Well, my fear.
Fucking, I love this.
My fear is that
this is my favorite TED Talk
any
ever.
time where things have escalated to this degree in history, it has led to catastrophe, and only the catastrophe cleared the air. So
that's what my grandmother says.
My hope is that that's not the case in this situation, but it doesn't look like it's slowing down in any way.
What kind of catastrophe for America?
Well, World War II was the big one that we're talking about. But obviously, a catastrophe would be, you know, an escalation of war. some description.
But I mean, would we go to war with each other in America again?
Well, I don't think we're heading towards a civil war. No. But,
but the two sides are digging in, man. No one is listening to the other side, and it's not going to get better anytime soon.
I do think there will be an increase in violence. I mean, you see little pockets.
Oh,
but
sure.
You do feel like people are becoming more and more emboldened to take drastic action to protect their point of view, quote unquote.
9/11 was a terrible day. I lived through it here in New York.
So did I.
The one thing that came of it, remember, everyone was on the same page for a while, and how nice that was, and how it was inspiring.
And look what the government did. They took that United America and they gave us the fucking Patriot Act,
right?
Which is just fucking has ruined us for.
I mean,
10
the what
years.
ifs.
But to your point, though, something dramatic had to happen for everyone to get on the same page. But we used to joke about it on the radio. Fast forward, God, it was only weeks, and all of a sudden those American flags, those the small ones, were all over the highways. They used to be on the cars, and people were moving on and getting back to where they were before 9/11 pretty quickly. But for a moment in time, we were all on the same page, and it felt fucking good.
And you know what sucks?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we were, but now, like looking back at it, that time is always intriguing to me because it's a part of history that I actually lived in.
You lived a real part of history.
I lived a real part of history. So
I smelled it.
And I did too.
Yeah.
I was at Fulton Fish Market.
Yeah, we smelled it.
But the
I left the night before.
did you really?
Yeah, I flew out on the 10th.
For real?
Yeah, just by chance.
I flew in on the 10th.
Get out.
High five.
High five.
I flew in from. Oh, sorry.
Let's get them checked out through.
I flew in.
Call your buddy at DHS.
I flew in on the.
I'm not Jewish, but all my Jewish friends said, "Don't be anywhere near the Twin Towers."
Holy shit, that was awesome. Yeah. So.
My friend was an engineer. He just said that he was just had to sort of he had to weaken the pilings or something.
Yeah.
I said, I better get the fuck out of here.
Dude, I know that dude. Let's do with the glass eye. One thing I realized that when you look back at it, it's easy to see. The minute it happened, the fucking government started the power grab. Just while we were all mourning, the Pentagon was still on fire, and you had these motherfuckers just running through the Constitution. And you know what? People say, but Carl, we're at war. We were attacked. But now, look at all the repercussions that have happened.
To this day.
How many things we have suffered and how much bigger the government is and how much more intrusive the government is because they use tragedies while we're as citizens helping each other. They're just Pac-Manning up our freedom.
Manipulation.
It's unbelievable.
That's where my government conspiracy kicks in.
And I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think once you have power, you want more. It's just a natural thing.
But people that believe, that I believe sometimes the government lets things possibly happen for some agendas that
look at Winston
they're
Churchill.
trying to get through.
Winston Churchill. It was
That's what I mean by government conspiracy.
You're a history major. Remember when Winston Churchill, I don't know the exact name of the town, they broke the codes, the SS codes or the Nazi codes.
Yes.
And they found out that they were going to bomb a city in England. They were going to come that night and bomb a city. But if Winston Churchill warned the city, then the Germans would know they had the code, so they just let it happen. That's their own
that
fucking,
in that movie with Gary Oldman.
So it's their own fucking people.
Oh, that was just a movie.
Oh, cool. But it was a good example of good movies.
But I just want to point something out about
that's fucked up.
But I want to point something out about patriotism and the manipulation of patriotism and its negative effects, which you've already alluded to. So obviously everybody was very upset about 9/11. All of us, we all lost people. Like we lost people that we knew, and it's so fucking painful.
Yeah.
And the desire for revenge is so strong. But revenge is a fucking pointless emotion in that it almost always creates more negativity. And even though it's counterintuitive, just having fucking left it alone would have had us in such a better position today.
Right.
Because Al-Qaeda was never going to, have long-term power. But everything we did was the absolutely perfect result for them. Yeah. But for some reason, people couldn't just fucking stop for a second and say, let's not manipulate everyone's hurt and do this. Let's just do nothing.
Well, think about it.
Well, doing nothing wouldn't turn on the
people said
ginormous war machine. Look how much money.
People said you couldn't do nothing, but we could have done nothing and be so much better. No fucking ISIS. No Iraq war. No Afghanistan.
Well, that's my point. It led to us getting into the Middle East, and more people died in the Middle East than the actual amount of people that died on 9/11.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the numbers are
but
insane.
But then I got to play the other side. Then, but what are you supposed to do? I don't know.
But they were. See, the thing was, they were a terrorist organization. They weren't a nation, but it just suited the government of the time.
Needed someone to
that
blame.
Particular government to turn it into nations that they've always wanted to go.
Because we
after.
always
Just wanna-
were,
yeah, it was-
we were always able to point the finger like they did this, but 9/11 was the first time like where are
Who
they?
the fuck did it?
Where are they? And as Americans, we needed to know where are they, and we decided they are
But it was
over
also
there.
super fucking lucky. That's the thing that nobody likes to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
they really just struck gold in terms of an effective terrorist attack.
Right.
But it was really fucking lucky they got away with it. But it wouldn't have happened again. If it was going to happen again, it would have happened. You know, it was just,
It would definitely happen.
you know, so it's really unfortunate. I've always thought that the reaction was unfortunate. I think we'd be so much better served to have just taken some time and not retaliated in the way that we did.
Right.
Eventually found Osama bin Laden. You know, all those things could have happened without the war in Afghanistan and then eventually the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
I mean, who can fucking argue that either of those wars were a good idea? I mean, they're about to fucking negotiate with the Taliban.
I
It's
know.
2019. It's
know.
fucking 18 years later, and the people that you fucking were supposed to fight to get rid of are about to be in control again.
Well, a lot of these guys were on our side, and then they became our enemies. You know, Osama
Well, we
bin
made
Laden
them.
was sort
we
of.
made these fucking people.
But no, to his point, it was just yeah. I read that article too. Like they're building a new government in Iraq, and the Taliban's gonna be part of it.
In Afghanistan, yeah.
Oh, Afghanistan. Sorry.
Yeah, they're going to negotiate with the Taliban.
No, they're figuring out how to
the
make
new,
the Taliban
new, more open-minded Taliban.
Yeah.
That's not going to put women in cages.
But they're
or-
gonna
throw
be-
gay people off the roof. Yeah, that Taliban.
But they're going to be part of the new government in Afghanistan. This is a real thing that's now happening.
That's happening. Oh, that's a real thing. The American government
it's-
are about to negotiate with the Taliban.
Yeah.
18 years later.
Amazing.
So I mean,
I think
that's
it's a money thing. I mean, on the higher Republican and Democrat, when you get into the higher atmospheres, the same fucking people, right? And the lobbyists and all that shit in D.C. is so disgusting and dirty. And we'll start wars just to fucking make planes. It's disgusting. I mean, the money. If you look at the defense budget, next to the education budget or the arts budget, it's ridiculous.
It's big
for any
business.
modern society.
Yeah.
I mean, we make the Romans look like nothing. You know, as much as our military.
Can I throw out one bit of devil's advocate here? I sometimes like to think that these guys like Rumsfeld and all them were just idealists and genuinely believed that pushing American power into the Middle East and pushing Western ideals would make those places better. I like to think sometimes that they're not completely corrupt and they're not in the pocket of defense companies to. That wasn't 100% their motivation. That they genuinely believed that this was good for society.
I like to believe that too.
Whether it's true or not, I don't know.
You know,
They should
thought,
build something like Voltron then or something, and then we'd be fine.
They
We
thought
formed like Voltron.
Fucking Voltron was
They
awesome.
thought if they could plant democracy in the Middle East and it spread, that would make the world a
Is it
much safer-
democracy or control? They wanted control over
Well, they
that
want
land.
to. Well,
Oh,
yeah.
don't be such a cynic. Do you hate America?
I love them.
Well, look, it would have
Hey,
absolutely.
I'm a fan of war.
I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
I like it, but it's got to be a fun one. Like the one in Grenada, that one was awesome. It was like
quickie.
48 hours, you know what I mean? Right? Or when we first went into Iraq, that was pretty cool.
Look, but to your point, sure, you put the seeds of democracy in the Middle East, and then, of course, it's to our advantage because it becomes profitable for us.
Well, yeah, because
And
we're the
makes
ones
us
we're the ones that come and service
yeah,
your democracy.
we understood that part of it too.
Right.
But in the end, Irish people will always like to point out that it really comes down to the English. They created these fucking countries which weren't even culturally
It's true.
connected. They created these fucking fake borders, and then they ended up with these dictators that controlled them for a period of time. But once the dictators are gone, the old tribal divisions arise, and you will never, you won't be able to put democracy on countries that shouldn't even be countries. And that's what the fucking English did, and that's their everlasting legacy. And when
spoken like
most
a true
people say,
Irishman.
white privilege, what they really mean is English privilege. Cunts.
Yo,
Sorry, I'm just
fuck the
I'm-
English.
And
I'm-
that C word.
I'm kidding. Oh, sorry, I forgot. We dropped the C. By the way, if there's any English, I'm totally joking.
then I'm-
So Americans-
I'm absolutely joking.
But then I'm learning that.
So you're saying Americans are the Puerto Ricans of white people? White American whites. I don't know. The real ones are the English.
But
yeah, they're the real. They're
the
They're the
ones.
real straight white guys.
Right. But we're mixed then.
I learned recently the C word in Ireland, right?
It's very casual.
No, but it's not. It depends how you say it. I learned recently. Even in Ireland, you could say it the wrong way.
Oh, you can, of course. I mean, it depends who you're talking to. But you can also say, like, he's a funny cunt in fairness.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you really pronounce that C, even in Ireland, you're going to piss off some people.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I thought the word was acceptable across the board in Ireland.
All right, now.
But it's sort of, yeah, we have words like that.
Well, it's
in
the same with
America.
the F. Yeah, same with the F-bomb. Like, in Ireland, they say fuck in front of everything. But at the same time, like, if you were saying something like, I'd love to fuck her now.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same as being like, I was fucking brilliant last night now.
Yeah,
It wouldn't register the same way.
Yeah. Des Bishop, we did it again, brother.
Sorry, man. I just at the end there, I was really joking about the English people thing. I know I put too much acting into it, so it sounds like I'm genuinely angry. But my dad's dad was English. Can I just point out, okay?
Yeah.
My father's father was wounded in Dunkirk. Okay.
Oh, wow.
He was stranded on the beach with the rest of them and was evacuated in the Miracle.
Yeah.
And he died basically like way later. He was never healthy after that, but he lived until 1976. Wow. So. I don't hate English people in the same way. However, I was raised with a Republican hint, but that drives my humor.
Okay, there you explained yourself. What do you say about that day?
About what day?
Dunkirk.
Yeah,
Dunkirk. Well, I only knew about it in the way that you read about it in history, but I saw the movie.
Yeah,
and I was blown away by the film. This sense of
right.
powerlessness and the fact that they got out of there. I mean, if it wasn't for those boatmen, perhaps Germany would have won. I mean, like if Germany could have pacified the UK, they may have had the power to take on Russia. That is just like an incredible event that happened.
That's a major moment in history.
These people are just like stuck in this fucking beach.
Yeah.
Abandoned. And the fact that they got, that's pretty amazing.
How many people was it? It was a lot.
I actually don't know. I don't know the numbers.
I don't know the numbers.
Joey's going to do it now.
Yeah, Joey will figure it out.
Of course. 338,226 soldiers were rescued from the beaches and harbor combined. Carry on.
Des Bishop, I really appreciate this because I follow you on Instagram. You're a good follow. And I saw you were in Ireland, and then I saw that you might be in the States, and I quickly texted you and said...
No, I was delighted. I was looking for... I prefer to do it on the beach, but...
Yeah. We'll do another one on the beach. But you said, fuck yeah, because now you're moving... you're going to Boston, like, now or tomorrow. And then you're going back to Ireland, so you fit me in, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll be in Australia. Just if I could plug a few things.
Yeah, please.
When this goes
out...
I think you probably have some listeners in Australia. So I'll be in Australia for the Melbourne and Sydney comedy festivals. My Instagram is @DesBishop. And if you're done listening to all Opie episodes and you happen to be looking for another podcast, my new podcast is called The Shift, which is actually just the Irish word for making out. And it's just a very lighthearted sex dating podcast. It's probably more like a female audience. So if you're like a really angry guy looking for like some filthy chat, it's not that. However, we do think it's good fun and you'll learn some tips. Certainly if you're a guy looking to please a woman, you will pick up a lot of tips.
Yeah. I love Ireland.
So all the women that listen to that podcast think you're a piece of shit? Or
no, all the women that
they love you? Where you at with this?
I'm not a millennial, but I'm just like these guys. I'm just
doing it.
All right,
lining them up. But I'm only kidding. But I'm 43 and I'm single, and somehow I've aged well. So
you look good,
I'm happy with the...
I'm 43 and single. I'm a mess.
You're doing all right.
But you're on the Food Network, bro.
I am, and it helps a lot with heavy.
Yeah, are you kidding me? They're like, okay, maybe he let himself go a bit, but I could see him in my kitchen, at 6 o'clock coming home from work, and he's in there with his apron.
I was staying at this girl's house yesterday, and I was doing something, and I said, what do you want to eat? She's like, I don't know. I said, well, go through Instagram, show me a picture, send it to me, and I'll make it. And I come home, and she sent me in.
I'm sorry, that makes every girl wet.
And then I come home, and she's like, you fucking actually made it. I was like, yeah. She's like, holy shit.
And you'll probably be around after 3 fucking visits. That's my problem. I got the Irish problems with intimacy, so I'm out the gap.
Earmuffs for a second.
Okay.
I don't know how he does it.
That's celebrity. Celebrity is a powerful thing.
I don't know how he does it. It's. You're not listening to this, are you?
I got earmuffs on, asshole.
It's fucking amazing to watch because I don't get it.
It's a con, man.
It's a con, man. You're from Queens.
Life is a con.
No.
Some people sell short, some people sell long, but you're selling something.
All kidding aside, he's got game and he's smooth as fuck.
Yeah, and he's got a great sense of humor.
Smooth as fuck. All right, Des Bishop. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Joey, wrap it up.
What a cool dude, man.
So are you, Chef. But we need to get you guys that thing called the internet. Lots of information there in case you forget something or need half-ass facts from Wikipedia. Remember to subscribe and rate us at Apple Podcasts. 5 stars, please. Follow Greg and Carl on Instagram and Twitter. Join the OpieRadio podcast group on Facebook. And have coffee with your host in the morning and see what it's like to be rich and have the best view in New York City. Listen free and follow me on Spotify. And until next time, I'm Joey Salvia for the Westwood One Podcast Network's OpieRadio.
From the Westwood One Podcast Network.